The
don't
Chiefs are
understand
good.
it.
So, well, hello, good morning. SamMeeBee here. Today's Saturday, October 19th. We got Week 7 kicking off tomorrow. But before we get started, let me introduce my guest. We got Ryder from Tier Show Times again, returning as always. Danny Stone, what's going on, Dan?
Hey, thanks for having me, Sammy B. Happy to be here.
Yep. And then this week we got a special guest because the Rams do play the Raiders. We found a Raiders fan, one of Dan's friends,
Found
Andrew.
one.
What's going on, Andrew?
Good morning. Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you see you're repping the Raiders, so I had to go put my Rams shirt on to be a good week.
Yeah,
So
got to bleed silver and black no matter what.
yeah, before we hop into the
Take it
matchup,
easy.
I want to say I know I plugged in Turf Show Times. Danny Stone had an article this week about the Rams free agencies, how they've panned out. I know Tre'Davious White hasn't been good. I think in your article it was mentioned Kobe Parkinson hasn't lived up to his hype, but I know he leads
Yep.
the league in the team, I should say, in targets. So what are your thoughts on the free agents? Just
So
expanding on your article.
it is a Lynx article, and I appreciate you bringing it up, but I didn't do any type of deep dive, I would say. But as far as the free agents go, finally last week, I believe, or the week before, they've got his name escapes me at the moment, which is not a good look. But Kobe Parkinson hasn't quite lived up to it, but that's okay. He's been good blocking wise. Obviously, Tre'Davious White got benched. Darius Williams came back. Goodness gracious, because he ends up getting benched when Darius Williams comes back. I don't know. It's been a weird season. The injuries haven't been good. Sean McVay even said, because they asked him on one of his Rams-friendly appearances, they're just kind of like, did Tre'Davious White get forced into the lineup because Darius Williams got hurt? And he's like, oh yeah, that's part of it. And yeah, that's fair. But also the dude, it doesn't look that great coming off of a couple major injuries. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. They like him as a personality, as a character, which I think actually goes a long way. But we'll get into Rams Raiders. And as far as the free agency signings, I mean, they're 1-4. It's just hard to. The narrative would be very different if they had a winning record or even 2-3 right now. But they're 1-4, so it's easy to say, oh, those signings haven't panned out. But there's a lot of games left. So even Parkinson, people are like, that's a bad signing. But he hasn't been like I said, I'm pretty sure his blocking's been fine, which is probably more what they signed him for, to be honest. So I don't know. We'll see.
I drafted him in all three of my fantasy leagues, just holding on to him. So
well, and that was a bold strategy, Cotton. I picked him up off waivers after the first week because he had 8 targets, but then I think he had 2 targets or something like that in week 2, and it's like, here it is. Sean McVay just doesn't. He's a former tight ends coach too. Yeah. He wanted Brock Bowers. We can tie it into the Raiders. The rumors are that the Rams really wanted to trade up and get Brock Bowers. That did not happen. But I say that they've never had his first pick as a Rams coach was Gerald Everett. He loves tight ends for whatever reason. It's just not. We've never seen a Rams tight end have a consistently dominant season. We've seen Tyler Higbee have stretches, but I don't think we've seen a tight end for the Rams under Sean McVay have a great fantasy season or statistically offensive output throughout a year. But I don't. Go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
No, don't be. That's all right. I think I had Higbee a few years back, and he was pretty consistent. But that's the problem with the tight end position. It's down across the board this year.
Yes.
Demonstrably. It's kind of crazy how down it is. And I was like, all right. And I say that as someone who's a Kyle Pitts owner in fantasy, so it's not like I like watching tight ends catch balls. I kind of like watching them look good. But yeah.
It's crazy that I just heard on, I don't know if it was a fantasy show or one of the YouTubes I listened to, but Brock Bowers is first in a lot of tight end metrics, I think yards, and then some of the PFF, the Pro Football Focus stuff too. And to your point, it's down. So Brock Bowers, if you were able to get him in fantasy, not to make this a fantasy show, although I will, if you were able to get him this year, what value? And it just ties back into the Rams. They really wanted him, as the rumors. They didn't get him. Funnily enough, they had already signed Colby Parkinson, so people are like, why would they want Brock Bowers? And it's just Sean McVay's I just want more bodies for Stafford, I think.
The same thing they argued when the Raiders drafted him. They're like, well, you already have Mayer. Last year you drafted, the first 2 picks, you picked someone out of Notre Dame who was the one who was right behind Brock Bowers in collegiate records, right? They're like, wow, this guy was up for the Mackey Award again and again. The only reason he didn't get it is because Bowers was playing in Georgia. And you're like, why would you double down on something like that? And that 12 personnel set sounds always
exciting to watch. Well, and I think that we're shifting back to. I think you bring up a great point. I think they're shifting back to 12 personnel. I think they want 2 tight ends. I think teams want to run it. I don't know. I think it's really funny how fickle the NFL. Running backs aren't get paid. It's no, they're not getting paid this pay cycle. Give it it's gonna come back around. This happens all the time. Like different positions get paid. The only one that seems to not be changing, although it has to at some point, is the quarterback position. But I don't know. It's really interesting. Brock Bowers exciting. The Rams are going to have to cover him. They gave up a huge touchdown to Tyler Kraft, the Green Bay Packers tight end. So I'm actually really nervous. I think on paper, I would guess all of us are going to pick the Rams, not to let the cat out of the bag, but we've been talking long, and I think we're all going to pick the Rams to win. Oh, you're a Raiders. So give me, how do the Raiders win? Give it to me. I know it's any given Sunday, but give it to me.
Great question. I'll just start with this. I bleed silver and black, but I never know what Raiders team's going to show up week to week. Not a clue. And I promise you that wild card is not like no Raiders fans like, oh, I've got the crystal ball that's going to tell you I'm going to show up. They could get annihilated by a team like the Panthers. They could go toe-to-toe and beat the Ravens at home. I don't know who's going to show up. So I promise you, I'm not just playing it mysterious, but I never doubt the Raiders for showing up. And especially after a big loss. Like you would think like, oh, wow, Devontae Adams, there goes the team. But no, not really. They haven't had him the last few weeks. And, middling results sometimes, but other times guys are stepping up. Still have the best player on the team, Max Crosby.
Yep.
And anytime he's on the field, he's not going to stop. And he's going to go 110%, and that's something to watch. As for the offense, I know that the Raiders are going to try to run the ball. I don't think that's going to help. If they move away from that, it's very likely it's going to help them win the game. If they start peppering, targets to other guys. Like if Jacoby Myers comes back, that's a big one. That'll be a big change. Someone like Trey Tucker is what, like 5'8", buck 80. That he's not, beating through multiple coverage or anything like that.
Right.
If he's open in open space, different kind of game. DJ Turner's the same situation. There was the first game, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago? They both had rushing touchdowns as receivers. Guys under 5'9", 100 or under 200 pounds. You're like, those guys should not be running the ball, but those kind of speed sweeps can change the element of the game. Hitting the edges instead of going in through the middle, between the tackles, it can be a big difference.
Man, all right, all that's valid. It's any given Sunday. I said it all the time. And I know it's corny, but it's true because all these guys, I say this too, SamMeeBee. I know even the worst team in the NFL has some of the best players in the world. So like anybody, you just never know. Max Crosby is that dude. Like if TJ Watt's not in the league, I actually said this last night talking to some friends playing Madden. If TJ Watt's not in the league, I think Max Crosby is that. I guess Aiden Hutchinson's up there too.
Broke his leg.
Sucks. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah. But yeah, Max Crosby's really good. He could wreck Matthew Stafford's day. I agree.
I need
the Raiders have a chance. They need to. Yeah.
I'm gonna pull up real quick because the Raiders have the worst rush offense, but the Rams have the worst rush defense.
Love that.
I'm just hopping in real quick to catch up on a couple of things you brought up. We talked about Gerald Everett. Do you know he was drafted right before Cooper Kupp?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Before. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I didn't get to hop in, but when we talk about free agent signings, I think the biggest signing was Jimmy G. I think the Rams are going to win 4 games this year, and all 4 games are against his former team. So, yeah, I'm taking the Rams this week because he's playing the former team in the Vegas.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Is he eligible to play now? I thought he was.
Yeah, he only had missed the first 2 games.
Yeah. Which, Pete, some kind of performance-enhancing substance. Yeah,
he was injured. When you're his age, you're trying to come back from injury.
He had to get acclimated to Los Angeles life, the beach life, the babes.
Yeah.
So.
Rich Eisen show when he got in trouble, they were making jokes that people get in trouble for like hair growth pills and other types of performance. Like, just I don't know. It kind of cracked me up, but yeah,
great head of hair.
He's a good looking dude.
He does. Yeah.
So yeah, but look at this screen. This right now is the Vegas offense, the Rams defense. As you can see, a lot of red on the Rams side, so a lot of red on the Vegas side. So it's kind of a what's worse. So I don't know what to expect. I do know last week Najee Harris had 6 yards a carry, over 6 yards a carry. So I'm almost hoping Kyron Williams can have a good day.
I expect him to. Yeah.
I think Matthew Berry has him as his number 1 running back this week, which
then,
I don't know. Javonte Williams has been a pretty good game, but we'll see.
Now I got the Rams offense versus the Vegas defense. As you see, more green on the Vegas side for defense.
Their defense
7th in passing yards.
Problem.
The same thing, rushing yards. So both teams have terrible rush attack, and both teams have terrible rush defense. So I don't know what to expect in the game. I mean, I do have the Rams winning. I know I've said on the show before. When it comes to point spread, it's 7. So when it's a full touchdown, it's hard. You get garbage touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I haven't. I'm not even touching the spread. But I do know.
You got Sean McVay who will kick a meaningless field goal like last year against the 49ers. We've all seen it.
Maybe he wants to build confidence in his kicker and just.
I was going to say that's what I didn't take it as better said it was meaningless. I thought he was just trying to make sure his kicking unit could function because they had the.
I'm a true Raiders fan, so I know that the kicker and the punter, AJ Cole, Daniel Carlson, switch that those guys are really talented. And then there's a reason why they're always really talented is because they need to punt and kick often. So you're like, the X factor is Daniel Carlson. Better watch out. Like,
Where I think the Raiders win, and I know this is more the emotional side of sports, which I know people say this doesn't always matter. That game that Baker Mayfield won a couple years ago, like players that are still on the team, like Max Crosby, I think they remember that. They're tired of hearing about it. They would love to like just beat the Rams and be like, whatever, Josh McDaniels, like whatever. Also, if we can get into the weeds for a little bit with the Raiders, I've been wanting to bring this up because I said this last year during one of our episodes, SamMeeBee, that the Raiders had, if then you can correct me, Gillies, the Raiders had Jack Del Rio, actually did pretty well. They replaced him with John Gruden. I think they get to the playoffs with Jack Del Rio, or I don't think he gets fired with a losing record. But then okay.
Car breaks his leg. Man.
Right. Which super unfortunate injury. But then they get John Gruden.
The first rookie to start in a playoffs game was that season. Yeah.
Yes.
Michigan State's Cook, I think it was his name. Yeah.
I think you're right. And my buddy and I watched that game. We wanted to believe, but very quickly it was like, I don't think he's ready. I don't even know if he's still in the league. That being said, he might be a coach maybe. So then they get rid of Jack Del Rio. They get John Gruden. Kind of a wild move, but also like, hey, Mark wants to, Mark Davis, Al Davis, he's doing it for his dad. Get John Gruden in. John
gets
Gruden
even wilder when you rehire a coach you traded away.
Well, it was insane. It just speaks to like, and I guess that's the point. It kind of speaks to the Raiders. So they get Gruden, and then Gruden has those horrific emails, character questions. I'll actually say, and people might not like him, his YouTube channel that he's been doing the last few weeks has been highly entertaining, but I get it. Obviously, he had horrific emails that just weren't necessary, to say the least. He ends up getting fired. They bring in Rich Bisogna, who's now with the Packers. Bisogna? I think he's with the Packers, and the Packers look great. He has a good year. They make the playoffs again, and they lose to the Bengals, who go to the Super Bowl that same year.
They lose the Bengals on an inadvertent whistle.
Yes.
Any other team, the NFL rules require that the play doesn't count.
Yes.
But it did that time. Yeah.
They replace him with Josh McDaniels. So, like, they have good – and then I think they should have kept Rich. So they hire Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is off.
That's his thing. Like he does every time when he's a head coach.
He
did it on the Broncos. Yeah.
No love lost for me. He's beaten the Rams and a Super Bowl. I don't like that dude. I'm sure if I met him, I've got nothing but respect. I couldn't do his job. But like as a fan, forget that dude. I don't like that dude. So then I said, and this is what I said last year. I'm like, the Raiders are going to mess up. They're going to keep Antonio Pierce. They should have kept Rich Bisogna. They should have kept Jack Del Rio. Now they're going to keep somebody, and it's not going to pan out. And that's really rude to Antonio Pierce, who I think is trying. But something is not right with the Raiders. And ultimately, that's why I'll pick the Rams. But shoot, anybody can win. Max Crosby can wreck the game. Trey Tucker. It's not like the Rams secondary has been great. But I do hope, and this might just be my fandom, I think and I hope that with Darius Williams coming back, I just think they're going to look better on defense. And Verse is good and Fisk is good. I think we didn't get Brock Bowers' first round pick, but I think they did a good job with Verse, Fisk, and the rest of the guys. But we'll see. I'll definitely be kicking myself when the Raiders are up 21-14 in the fourth quarter. I'll be like, gosh darn it.
Yeah, we'll know Vegas comes in 2-4, and the Rams are 1-4. And the reason why I am taking the Rams is 3 of those 4 losses are 1 possession. In the last 2 games, Vegas got blown out. The last 2 losses were by 16 or more. And I think the biggest factor, the Vegas has, in the 6 games played, they have 12 turnovers. So they average 2 turnovers a game. The Rams have 6, so half of that. So I think the Rams can win the turnover battle. I think it's the biggest difference. So I do have some more. And he said, when you look at the numbers, the Rams are not looking good either.
No.
It's 2 bad defenses. But I'm expecting Stafford to be better game manager than AOC. I mean, they do have a new. I want to ask you about this one, Andrew. The new owner they have, minority owner. He seems to have a better record.
Minority owners. Yeah.
So, do you think they get any spark from him?
Seymour? Yeah, Richard Seymour was a great player. He's fun to watch. Yeah. I mean, he did get qualified. Yeah, Tom Brady. Tom Brady is from Northern California as well. So apparently he has like childhood ties and stuff like that. I'm glad he finally admitted the tuck rule is ridiculous. And I think I saw a tuck rule ruling, what was it, last week?
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, I don't know. There's the tuck rule game. They're like, I think there's the tuck rule.
That was the Jets-Bills game.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. That
was a weird one because the ball's still in his hand, and then he like hits the arm, and then it just drops, and you're like, I think that might be quintessential fumble with that. I have no idea. I don't know what pass interference is. I don't know what tuck rule's back again. But you're right. If the other thing for the Rams is that you may have more losses, but the losses are against really good teams, right? The Packers, right? And I think who else did you guys play or lose to? Somebody really good.
Detroit week 1.
Lions.
Right. Yeah.
Got blown up by Arizona. And then
Packers.
The Bears. I think the Rams. I think that, and this is part fandom, but part. I think the Rams should have beaten the Bears. They didn't, so that's disrespectful to Chicago fans. Like if they should have, they should have. But I thought the Rams had a real chance to beat Chicago. But Shane Waldron, former Rams coach, offensive coordinator for Caleb Williams and the Bears, people have been talking smack, but now it's starting to come around. He kind of took it to McVay. He's like, well, the run game's working. We're going to run the ball. Whereas and it's not just McVay, and I don't want to change the play caller. I love reading comments in my game thread articles, fire McVay. And I'm just like, oh, right. It's like Steelers fans that want to fire Tomlin. I'm just like, fire him then. Like, okay, do that.
You could have Raiders fans who are like, I assume the coach is getting fired. So
right. The alternative is not always better.
That guy.
But I do wish, but it's, I do the same thing in Madden, and it's a video game, but like you run the ball 100 times. Like you want to throw the ball, and McVay doesn't always stick to the run, but there are times where it's like, just stick to the run, stick to Kyron. And you've got Blake Corum. Like you don't have to just run Kyron 30 times a game. Give it to Blake Corum. Like give it to Ronnie Rivers, mix it up. But it's
last week too.
Well, he did before the bye. I will say though, and I think this applies to the Rams, the Raiders can win this game by what I think teams, it's not just, you choke the Rams out. You don't give McVay 50 calls to play. You're just like, well, we're going to run the ball. We're going to chew clock. We're going to keep your offense on the sidelines. Like you're the boy genius. You can win any game if you have 2 hours. You've got 60 minutes. And so I've seen that a lot as far as just he runs out of time. But I still stand by the Rams call, but obviously the Raiders can win. And in my article that I'll try to link this video to, it's funny because from a Rams fan's perspective, I think they're like, oh, this is a winnable game. It's like, yeah, but if you look at it from a Raiders perspective, this is a winnable game. Like both teams are 1-4. Like the Raiders might be 1-5 because they haven't had their bye week. But either way, both teams have one win. Like,
and the Rams
haven't looked great.
And the Rams have a short week because they play Thursday night as well.
Yeah, dude, that Vikings game. If we lose to the Raiders but beat the Vikings, I'll still be a believer because the NFC game is arguably more important than us winning against the Raiders. But at 1-4, you need a win, period. But even if they lose and beat the Vikings, it would change the narrative.
I thought it was a really early bye. I didn't like that, but I do like how they go from this game to Thursday. I'm like, so if you can get 2 wins in 4 days, I mean, there'd be 3 and 4 still, but like you said, it'd be huge playing that. So I think I know every game's a must win because it's a short season, so I definitely want this win. And I just have a couple other things. This is going to be the so far they've matched up 15 times, the Rams Raiders, and like as a whole, and the Rams lead the series 8-7. So if Vegas does win, then the series is tied 8-8.
Right up.
So and they lead 8-7 because of a Baker Mayfield miracle. That was the
Baker Mayfield dime. Yeah, it was dimes.
That was my biggest Turf Show Times article too, because I wrote about Baker Mayfield and Sean McVay being on a plane before he gets drafted. Apparently, they shared a plane seat, and the article
I read your article.
Thank you. Yeah, it went viral or whatever, which I don't know that I'll ever get to say that again. But that was really so. I guess that game is a special place in my heart because good for Baker.
Well, I got a couple notes for the Raiders fans on the positive because we're so positive on the Rams. The Raiders have the 8th best passer rating when the quarterback is under pressure, and the Rams, when they're pressuring the quarterback, give up the worst passer rating. So I wonder if that's why they're not pressuring the quarterback a lot because their secondary can't cover. Although I heard this week that AOC doesn't leave the pocket and every single pass attempt is in the pocket.
Never ran.
So that's interesting.
And really doesn't leave the pocket much either, I don't think.
Some people call people statuesque. That guy's like rooted in the pocket. He does a good job of stepping up.
You think he gets mobile against the Rams? Do you think Okay.
If he has to, it's not good. I haven't seen Aiden O'Connell run.
Fair.
If that guy needs to take a step or two up in the pocket, great. He does a good job with that presence. If he has to run, it's not good.
He doesn't look that different than Derek Carr to me, with the exception of Derek Carr's been in the league and obviously is a better quarterback. But I don't know. The Raiders are funny.
I would say Derek has a bigger arm and he's a little more athletic. Not just because I met him in 8th grade, but Aiden O'Connell, Aiden O'Connell, that's not really his game. And that's insane that you brought up. Like, he's never ran it, and like all these dropbacks, no one like under 150 dropbacks has never ran it like that. He just doesn't take it down. He's just like, oh, that's not my game, and I appreciate that. If you're not trying to play a part of the game you're not good at, but if you watched him back at Purdue, like, he didn't do that either. Like, it was a lot of wider sets and stuff like that. And it wasn't like a one read and throw it away, though. He does a good job of staying in the pocket. But that
might
really
be
hurt
perfect
you
for Verse, though, because Verse is having a hard time finishing tackles. He can't do the mobile. I shouldn't say can't do. That's disrespectful, but he's learning. That might be – oh, man, they might feast. Maybe the Rams' defense is a good start in fantasy. I'm not going to start them.
Like I said, when the Rams are pressuring the quarterback, the passer rating is 118.2. So they're not.
Never mind.
As I'm saying, right. I'm trying to give some stats for the Raiders. Like,
I appreciate that.
The Raiders have thrown the ball 59% of the time, 4th highest in the NFL, and the Rams have allowed 8.4 yards per dropback, which is the worst in the NFL. So, like I said, it's the worst rush offense versus the worst rush defense, and like I said, there's nothing good on the Rams side defensively. So I'm just praying and just want to look for Stafford on the field. I actually have a question. It says the Rams give up over 27 points a game. Same with Vegas, over 27 points a game. The over-under is 43.5. Do you think it goes over that or under that?
I'm probably going to lean towards under, not just because it helps the Raiders in the long run, but I don't know. These teams are probably going to knock down, drag out, but there's also going to be a lot of attempted runs for sure. Whether they work out or not, they're still going to burn clock. So the Raiders, go ahead.
I have a prediction. My prediction was 27-18, so that'd just be over. So that's what I had. What about Sano?
I think I had 28-10 for the article that I'll finish up after we do. I think, but the final score to me is I throw it in the article to throw it in. I have no idea. It's not like I don't see the future, but my Rams bias is probably I can't help but wonder if I wasn't a Rams fan how I'd be viewing this one. I do wonder how much my Rams bias gets in the way of thinking the Rams are going to win this game.
I don't know. This is tough to predict because both teams have had a lot of struggles.
Yeah,
like when you would expect them to, and succeeded when they shouldn't. Maybe
them beating the Ravens is, I don't want to call it an anomaly, but it just gives them a lot of credibility. It's a great win.
All I can say.
It's a great win, and the Ravens, you could argue, well, in the first 2 weeks they didn't look. I would say they did look pretty good. They just lost those 2 games. The Raiders looked great against the Ravens. I don't know. Gardner Minshew was the quarterback situation is interesting.
Yeah, that one's a little rough. I mean, when the season started and the coach is saying, hey, like, this guy's our starter for now, and he gives us a chance to win starting the season, you're like, okay, that's a lot of caveats to start a season. Like, there's a very short leash, and, very quickly. What was the game? He has a pitch that ends up in an interception. He has an interception, pick 6 on the goal line. Those types of mistakes.
That I think was the unforgivable one, and it's easy to see it on television. But he has Brock Bowers open underneath, and he
really like the rollout built that,
and it would have helped me in fantasy huge. Brock Bowers would have had a huge monster. Like, his fantasy season could be even bigger, and instead he throws it to Pat Surtain behind Brock Bowers because he sees the. I watched that play and I was just like, no.
Oh, trust me, I watched that play too.
Well, that's how you get benched in the NFL. Especially when you're not on a Deshaun Watson contract. But SamMeeBee, any other last minute thoughts? I guess good stats, obviously, and I appreciate you guys shouting out my article a couple times.
So I brought up the this is first quarter for the game tomorrow. The reason why I brought it up, in the first quarter, the Rams are tied for 4th, giving up 7 points a game, but are the second worst, averaging 1.2 points per game in the first quarter. Vegas in the first quarter gives up an average of 4.3 and scores about 5.2. But I see they had the over-under for the first quarter 7.5, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking the under in that one. I haven't made any bets yet for tomorrow. If I was to pick one, it's the first one that jumps out. But I thought it was interesting. They have Vegas over under 0.5 point, so they have Vegas not even scoring in the first quarter.
Yeah.
My buddy always told me not to take unders because then you're rooting against points, which just isn't fun as a fan.
Man.
You'd rather root for points. But I think the unders
I had
is
a
smart bet in this game.
Last year, the nickname Captain Unders Pants because I was always doing unders and hitting, especially at basketball. I do a lot of basketball props. Right now, I'm looking at MGM. That's where these numbers are. They're not a sponsor, but I prefer MGM. And they actually have rush attempts for Aiden O'Connell, 1.5. You can take over under.
So do the under, right?
I mean, kneel downs count. So if the Raiders are up, so if the Raiders are up, it could be a kneel down.
Or halftime, they get the ball and it's 10-7.
Third and short, and suddenly it's a 1 yard rushing attempt. Like, there he goes.
Yeah.
And
Tush push, Aiden O'Connell.
On MGM, they don't have rushing yards because if they had rushing yards, I'd take under. But rush attempts, I don't know because of kneel downs. They have Kyron Williams over under 19.5 rush attempts. Do you think, Dan, he goes over that?
Yeah, I mean, I will say as much, and this kind of contradicts what I said earlier. McVay does tend to get away from the run as far as like, hey, run it a 6 time in a row. But that's easy to say when you're watching it on TV. Like actually calling those plays is insane. Like what Ben Johnson is doing in Detroit is actually admirable. He also has the running backs to do it and the quarterback. With that being said, yeah, I would say go take the over on 19.5 rushes because even if the Rams are losing, McVay has made it a point to be like, I'm still going to show the run. Like I think that I like McVay's play calling this year with the exception of when they get into like the red zone, particularly like 10-5 yards out. Because again, I think he gets away from the run. But that's easy for me to say. It's so tough down there. It tightens up. It's red zone struggles are real. And to your point, SamMeeBee, I think last year, if I remember, you had the overall under on points. You thought points scoring was going to be down last year, and I think you were right. And it looks it's trending that way so far this year too, I think.
Yeah, so what I did the bet last year, because I don't really do a long season-long bet, but there was one I really liked last year. Was all the games combined from every game, every team, under total points. And I think going into the last week, it was projected to be under by like over 600 points. And it was real low.
Yeah.
And I think because last year we pulled up the stats about how kicking was up, yet they're making less. They're kicking more field goal attempts, but not making as many. This year, kickers have been doing good.
Yes.
That bet was such an easy win that they got rid of it this year. So
makes sense.
There you go. Well, you were on it because you were telling me that last year, well before the season started, like August.
It was way under.
You're like, this is a good bet, and you were right. It was, yeah,
it was way under. I think it wasn't like a sweat. Like I'm like, they had to score like all the teams combined last week over 1,000 points or something. It was crazy. The bet I had this year instead is under 19.5 total overtime games in the regular season. And I think
that seems like a good one.
I think it's been 3, so you have to average less than, I guess, no more than 1 a week. And I think it's only been 3 or 4. In the
that
first
seems like a smart
weeks.
Bet.
Pretty good bet. I'd take that.
Yeah,
especially like a lot of this drives me nuts. And we should get into the games, but I'll bring up Nick Sirianni if I think of it. But like coaches like that, where it's like, just take the field goal, man. And he's like, no, we're taking the points, and that does not force overtime because then lo and behold, later on, it's like should have taken the field goal. But who knows? It's so easy to say that in hindsight, and when you're watching it on TV, it's a lot easier to critique that way.
And I brought up that Eagles game here. So it says first quarter 6.5 points over under. In case you didn't know, the Eagles have 0 points in the first quarter all season.
No wonder my Eagles fan gets so upset. And I'm like, your team's good. He's like, they're the worst team.
First quarter, I hate watching them. Yeah.
There was.
Tune in later.
That is a ridiculous stat, though. You've got Barkley. You'd think he'd break one off for a first quarter tutty, but whatever.
Yeah.
You got Hurts. He can run, too. Whatever.
I prefer betting on basketball, but I was doing football, and I think week 2 or week 3 when the Eagles played Atlanta, I had Eagles minus a half a point, like it is right here, in the first quarter. And instead of going for a field goal, they went for it on 4th down and didn't get it. And I was so mad. It was a multiple unit bet, and I said I'm not betting for a couple weeks. It hurt my bank. It hurt my bankroll.
You know what? Maybe Nick Sirianni had to prove to somebody that he doesn't care about the betting lines or something. He's just like,
some fan in the stands is like, "Hey man, I got money on this."
Yes.
Yeah, like, come on, man.
So then we're gonna hop into the game soon. But MGM has
probably who was yelling at after the Browns game.
We're gonna hop into the games here in a moment, but I see MGM has these week 7 specials. Looks like they have Kyron Williams as the favorite for most rushing.
Matthew Berry, it's his number 1 running back. Which say what you want, but I think that really impacts that stuff. Something like he's literally out there being Kyren Williams, the number one running back, which I don't know that he is this week. Like I love Kyren Williams and he's been great in fantasy, but the number one running back, like that's so hard.
There's a couple accounts I pay for projections, and they actually projected him going under his rushing yards. So I'm not taking him. I haven't looked at the matchups. I don't know who I would take. I mean, Saquon in a revenge game of the Saquon Bowl.
Oh yeah,
and then most passing yards. They have Kirk Cousins as a favorite, and then Geno Smith. So I guess we'll get into the matchups and we'll figure out how they feel about that.
I like the betting stuff though, SamMeeBee. I like because it's just a different perspective, and you
gotta be careful. You
actually have a good knack for it, I think.
You gotta be careful. There's so many options. Like, look at the longest touchdown. How long?
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, this is crazy.
Can I say for Kyren Williams, just because you kind of mentioned I wouldn't take the over/unders yardage, but I would take Kyren for a touchdown. Like I don't know that the Rams win per se, but I would take Kyren for a touch. He's scored, I think, 6 or 7 of 7 of the last games. Like he's been. And actually, our editor had an article. Kenneth had an article about how teams are letting Kyren Williams score, and they're kind of letting that. Like they're just like, that's fine. Like go ahead and score, Kyren. Like Sean McVay, you're gonna mess up and have Stafford throw a pick. Like it's really fascinating how teams are playing McVay.
And I'll give you the Raiders' perspective of that. Losses on the interior defensive line have been pretty massive this last week. So Butler didn't do that well. That's probably why someone like Matthew Berry's like Kyren Williams can feast in the interior. He tries to go to the edges. Like the Raiders aren't too bad. They're playing a little bit better, but on the interior defensive line, a lot of big losses. Their biggest free agency signing leaving on ending up on IR. It's pretty devastating.
We might have our guards back too, so that might actually could be the difference. That's a good. I like that. That's good stuff, Gills.
Gotcha.
I just saw this one. I'm going to look into this more after we get off the call. Successful 2-point conversions over under 2.5. Because my first thought was under, and that's pretty nice at plus 130. Anytime you see a plus,
this is for all the games.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
The whole week. Wow.
Yeah. Because I'm looking at it right now. The Eagles have only 9 teams have converted a 2-point conversion so far this season,
and that's what I'm always blown away. It's like that's why they get paid to make these lines like 2.5 per like. That's tough. You definitely could see 2 or 3. I don't know.
3 in 1 week.
Yeah. You might see 4. Like that's the funny. Like you might see 4 with ease in the first slate of games at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Plus, there's the 9 a.m. game. You got the class.
So there's a really tight overtime game. Both teams going for 2.
Yeah,
both make it. There's 2. Boom, right there the whole week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's been 9.
I'm not touching that. I don't bet anyways, but I wouldn't
ain't
touch
in that action. Yeah,
I wouldn't touch that.
You guys combined 13 this week. There's only been 13 this season converted. I just looked it up.
Okay, that's more than I would have thought. I would have said under 10.
Tempted to come back after this video, do a little more research, but at first glance, I am looking at 2-point conversions. So I'm gonna try to. You watch the red zone, so let me keep track of that, please. Let me know.
I will.
Now I'm curious. Like I said, there's so many options with sports betting. Like first touch, I don't really touch first touchdown scores unless it's like a primetime game just for fun.
Sure,
it's too unpredictable. But
I think that's a fun one in the Super Bowl. I don't bet real money, but Madden, you can do little bets to win Madden money, and that's kind of
really.
Yeah, you can win tokens to like earn. It's kind of they do like a betting thing to like win more Madden. Okay. Kind of. It's cool. It's not even because they have their whole actual gambling thing, which is messy. But this is like actual like in-game currency to earn, and then you can bet it to like win on. Yeah, they've done it the last few Super Bowls. You can like make bets in Madden with Madden money. It's kind of Madden coins.
I feel like first touchdown to score is always really less predictable because a lot of teams will script their earlier parts of the game, right? And they stick to their script, and you're not going to usually just give it to your superstar if you're scripting out a play, right? You're like, hey, let's get this guy the ball in space or somewhere like this that we usually don't see that we could catch them with their pants down.
Like
so
Trey Tucker.
Like that was even more variable. Yeah, Trey Tucker.
I could see it, dude. Trey Turner, excuse me. I'm not even trying to be a jerk.
Trey
it's
Tucker
funny.
And DJ Turner, yeah.
DJ,
they're both undersized wide receivers that have a huge opportunity now. And I haven't seen Meyer practice fully yet.
I read he wasn't playing but I don't know.
Early week he was not expected to play at all. Yeah. I think he did a limited practice ankle, and those are really difficult too.
He's a good player. I had him in fantasy. I think not last year, the year before. I don't know. He threw a touchdown one year. I started him.
He did, yeah.
I think I was dead by then in the league, but I was still starting my lineup. Pride.
You're burned out on the season. You're like, it's all bag and
Go ahead,
tag.
Myers. Show me what you can do. We'll see. I'm excited for the game. I am excited. But the Rams were on a bye week, so I'm like, yeah, let's watch some Rams ball. Win or lose, it is fun to watch them, but it is rough when they lose, though. I gotta admit, I'm better about taking it now, especially as a writer. I try to be neutral, but boy, it hurts. 1-4. I thought they were going 13-3, Gillies. They're 1-4.
13-3.
I did. I was like, it's one of those years. They're going. Nope.
I mean, there's just like the Bengals out there that you're like, wait, what's the record? And you're like, they're not even. Wow, yeah.
That's a shocker,
right?
I guess, SamMeeBee, if you want to get into the games, I know we spent a lot of time on Rams Raiders, which I'm happy about. I can do a little sentence in the article and say this isn't our norm because I'm enjoying it.
No, I definitely wanted to talk a lot about the Rams Raiders. I know we're past 30 minutes, but that was kind of our focus was do that. Mm-hmm. So last thing I want to end on, I couldn't find it on MGM, so I switched over to DraftKings. These are anytime touchdown scores. So Kyron Williams is the favorite to be the first. So to finish the game, who do you think would be the first touchdown scorer in tomorrow's game?
What's Max Crosby at? I think that's the
first score.
Wow. Yeah, he gets a strip sack. He picks it up. He's like, Aiden Hutchinson, this one's for you.
Play, yeah, strip sack for a touchdown.
He does it for Hutchinson.
Okay.
Is it for Hutchinson?
Yeah.
I know some of the sports books.
And then he goes to the Lions after this week.
Plus 900. What about you, Andrew? Who do you think scores first?
I'm going to go probably first touchdown in the game, Brock Bowers.
I was thinking him. I think he'll be the first for the Raiders. I think because you can even do that like first for the game or first for the team. I was thinking Brock Bowers first for the Raiders. I was almost thinking that they're going to do over the top, do a long pass to Tutu. I'm taking Tutu for the first.
You know what? I like the Max Crosby take because I think it's hot, but I think I'm going to go Whittington. I wonder if Kupp's back. I think Whittington's in for he might be in for his quote breakout game. We'll see, but I've had a feeling that way. I don't think I'm starting him in any fantasy leagues, but
I've been waiting to talk about Jacorian Bennett, man. All right, we got you. Yeah.
Is he a Raider?
The other corner, yeah. The other corner.
Is he going to cover Whittington?
I don't know if he's going to be tied to him, but
sure.
He's the other corner beside Jones.
Is he pretty good?
Yeah, he's playing a lot better. He's undersized and he's kind of playing out of his shoes a lot more.
Okay.
Number 0,
that's tough.
You.
Well, I had fun talking about that, but I guess there are other games this weekend. So the next game would be the one across the pond. We got London. Jacksonville, as we know, stayed there because they played there last week. But they are favored by 6 points. I had the spread here. These are current as of this morning via MGM. Danny Stone's shaking your head. I guess I'll let you start. What's going on?
I was talking to my buddy about this last night because he wants to start Drake May in a fantasy league because Jacksonville Jaguars defense is not great. But I think they're getting Trayvon Walker back, and I think Jacksonville is actually really talented. It's just they just haven't won games. I can't explain it. With that being said, these London games I think are usually really ugly. Like I get wanting to start Drake May, but I could see this game being like 9-6. I mean, I'm starting Tank Bigsby, I think, in a couple leagues. So like I'm with it. I hope there are some touchdowns. But oh man, this is tough for me, SamMeeBee. I guess I'm going to take Jacksonville. Oh, this is such an ugly game for me. I've been I really have been thinking about it this week, probably more than I should.
You stopped halfway.
I guess I'm going to take Jacksonville. If the Patriots still have Matthew Judon, I think it'd be a different scenario, but they've got Christian Gonzalez. But other than that, on defense, and I like Trevor Lawrence, and I think Drake May had that throw last week that was awesome. But I'm going to take Jacksonville. This is an ugly game.
What about you, Andrew? Who are you taking on this one?
I feel like I'm going to be echoing a lot of the similar things. Everybody's going to be watching May, but less for him to blow people away and more like how does he respond to being on the road in London against a team he probably could beat, and it's a good chance for him to do so. But that team's been waiting for a week to make up for what happened in London last week, and it did not look good for them.
No.
And so sticking around. I mean, I've seen teams like the Raiders from the West Coast stay on the East Coast and still lay an egg the next day. You're like, well, hold on, you guys have been waiting out there. But I'm probably going to go with Jags on this one. The Patriots haven't showed me enough surrounding kind of like assistance there on offense to kind of help May. Like if he was coming into a better situation, if they had someone who was kind of catching on in the receiving core, or if their run game is a little bit better. I like Ramondre Stevenson, but I don't know.
I do too.
don't see it. Yeah.
Fumble issues aside, I like Pop Douglas.
Right.
I like some of the Patriots. I don't know.
I haven't seen it this year.
Stevenson's on my fantasy team, so I did see he wasn't practicing last couple games, so I don't even know. It's like in the air if he's even playing or not.
Correct.
You know, like there's some players, you know, they're not playing. Like, all right, even if it says questionable, he's out. He's one of those players where I'm like, I really don't even know.
Right.
So I did pick up the backup.
And he wasn't even starting because the fumbles they had Antonio Gibson
right.
starting.
He still scored the first touchdown for them.
Yes, he had a great run against Miami.
And I saw you talked about that throw Drake May made. Yeah, I think going into last week's game, the Patriots had I think only 2, maybe 3 touchdowns of 20 yards or more, and they had 2 last week.
Yeah.
And you know the first one, I think the last one might have been a garbage touchdown, but the first one looked really good to Douglas. I'm actually starting Douglas and Henry this week, mainly because I'm in a deep roster that's 2 flexes, so it's a lot of players.
Right.
I think I saw a stat somewhere once where the team that lands first doesn't win. And you know what? I think Jacksonville's terrible. I'm taking the Patriots. Dan, last week you went 12-2. I forgot to mention that at the top of the show. Dan went 12-2 last week. One of his losses was Jacksonville, and you said they're the worst team. And you're still taking them.
I definitely, if memory serves, I picked the Bears over Jacksonville. I did go 12-2.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Titans. Okay.
Oh, well, the Titans they might be you think the Titans are the worst team. I don't think Jacksonville's in terms of talent. And I want to be clear about this. I have said this year Jacksonville's the worst team, but it's not in terms of talent. It just looks bad. There's no, even the Titans, it's kind of like, well, we don't, Jacksonville has the quarterback, quote unquote. They have the running backs, quote unquote. I know Travis Etienne's hurt. They have receivers. Brian Thomas looks great. They drafted back-to-back first overall. They had Trevor Lawrence. They get Trayvon Walker. The team has players. It just looks bad. Gabe Davis finally had a big week against Chicago, but they don't look like a team. They look like good players, and that's not. Yeah, I can't, because my thing with Tennessee, which not to belabor it, but they could have 2 wins if Will Levis doesn't have those horrific turnovers. And I don't mean to take away from what those other teams did to force those turnovers, but I can't. I have no excuses for Jacksonville. I don't understand it. I don't know. They look
you're
terrible.
Right. I apologize. You did take the Bears. We did a short. We clipped all your picks.
I loved
Sunday,
it, by the way.
Monday, you went 11-2. But yeah, the Thursday night game, right? That's why I said you're 12-2. So you had a great week last week.
I took the Broncos. You guys took the Saints, which I thought was nuts, just because the Saints are so hurt. That team is so hurt. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Mac and I, we took this. We didn't record. Obviously, I just see recording now. We texted each other. Mac and I took the Saints. Even with the injuries, my thought was that Rattler was playing second team with Bubba.
I like the take.
So that was my idea was, hey, he probably has a rapport with these guys already. So that's why I stuck with it. And unfortunately, if you caught the game, it was ugly.
Poor Rattler. I thought he was putting it on the numbers and guys were dropping it. I actually thought Rattler looked okay, all things considered. And Bo Nix, he's hey, they look all right. Cortland
started him in fantasy, and I started Williams because my teams are terrible. I
started Javonte Williams in a league where Gillies and I actually made a trade. I started him, and I hated starting him, but Ramondre Stevenson might not play, and I was like, I'll just start Williams, and it ends up being maybe my best start of the season, which is just fantasy. So funny that I literally hated starting him, and then he puts up 28 points.
There's a reason why I traded him. Yeah, but we were already talking about former Raiders head coaches. Dennis Allen. I don't know, that team's not quite coaching to the skill sets that are on that team.
I would agree.
If I see Alvin Kamara, not just between the tackles, but between the center and guard, the A gap, I'm like, that guy. I don't know if he's built quite for that.
He used to. Yeah. He's not the same as I was thinking that watching Alvin Kamara used to just be, he would get yards no matter what. It's not. Plus, he had Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara he's still good, but
they're not really seeing him play into his skill set. So a little bit more.
That team is hard to watch.
I know Kamara had a lot.
Chris Olave is really good too. He could be a top receiver in the league, but I don't know.
That concussion, that hit that caused the concussion, he was down right off the bat. And I was like, he's not a big guy either.
No, he's not.
Because my fantasy teams are terrible, and I had drafted CMC 4th overall, and so I traded Olave for James Conner early on. That guy's been trying to trade it back.
I believe it.
Funny.
Yeah.
The reason why I went back to this screen because I want to talk a little more about Thursday night. If I remember, Kamara had I think like 10 rushing yards or something like that, and 17 receiving yards after how many catches? And his
six.
over,
I think he had 6 catches.
Yeah, but I think combined he had like 30 yards rushing and receiving, and his over under rushing and receiving was like 110. So that's why I wouldn't have touched it. Like I would have taken his over receiving yards. So I didn't watch the game, but because watching the baseball electric playoffs this year. But there's a lot of catches. It must have been a lot of dump off. So
you're a Yankees guy. That was a big Cleveland win. That was crazy.
Cleveland baseball team.
I can't lie. I like the Cleveland baseball team. I like Cleveland. We used to go to
I'm happy
Guardians games.
I'm happy Cleveland baseball team won Game 3 because I have friends that wanted to go to Game 5, but they were worried about a sweep. So I'm glad Cleveland won at least one game.
Yeah,
don't want too much rest. So
hey, and you may think I'm delusional for being a Raiders fan, but the other half of my family are Browns fans. So
really,
we will talk about
they're Cleveland. All Cleveland sports. So yeah, and
I'm all about baseball, so we need a baseball episode. So, and then we will fly back from London to the Battle of the Birds. We got Atlanta hosting Seattle. Andrew, let's start this one. Who do you like in this matchup? Atlanta is favored.
Ooh, I was all over the Falcons at the beginning of the season, but I don't know. I think the Seahawks are a pretty good team. They do a good job. If they can run the ball and keep it out of their hands, I think it's going to play well towards their team. I'm a big fan of Kenneth Walker, big fan. And if they're getting him going, and I know Geno, he looked a lot better last year, but I'm kind of going to be leaning towards the Seahawks on this one. I think the Falcons are a little too unpredictable for me. But I mean, I'm sure you're going to look back over this and be like, this guy was terrible, this picks. Yeah. So. But I would have to go with Seattle on this one.
So
what do you got, SamMeeBee?
So I will say, Andrew, in our previous episodes, I've mentioned how Kirk Cousins is actually terrible in domes, surprisingly. So I've been talking down on him, but I kind of like him. I think it's two teams going in opposite directions. Seattle's lost 3 in a row, and Atlanta's won 3 in a row. I think it's, if I saw right, I think it's top 10 pass D versus top 10 6, both top 6 offenses. So it's going to be a good matchup statistically. I have it coming down to Atlanta winning with a game-winning kick by the Young Ho, and then so I'm taking Atlanta.
He's been good. I know he's missed a couple, but he's been fantasy-wise, he's been putting it up.
What about you, Dan? Who are you taking for this?
I'm going to take the Falcons. I think this is a toss-up. I like you bringing up because they are on 2 different diverging paths as far as losing 3, winning 3. And I definitely could see Mike McDonald in Seattle being like, the buck stops here. We're going to beat Raheem Morris and Kirk Cousins. We've seen Kirk Cousins not show up. But, man, he's looked great the last few weeks. I'm going to go with Atlanta here, but I could be kicking myself for sure. I could see Seattle in this game.
That wasn't a confident pick on me. I was like, I feel like they got to get it right, and they've got the skill set to do something like this. You're like, wait, what is this game? It's going to be if it turns into like a slower, not a big offensive blowout game, then I think the Seahawks have the edge. But the Falcons do look really good. And I was all over in I thought that the Falcons were going to do a lot better in the beginning of the year, and they're starting to catch on a little bit more.
The win over the Bucs was huge. That Thursday night game or whatever, that was huge. I like this game for fantasy, whether it's Kenneth Walker, Drake London, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Tyler Lockett. Kyle Pitts, I don't know. I like him a lot. The talent's there. It just hasn't. He might catch a pass for 50 yards like last week, and then he might disappear. Like I don't know. But I like this game for fantasy. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. Start them all. I say.
Yeah.
Don't have a choice if you have Kyle Pitts.
I have Kyle Pitts and Brock Bowers in a dynasty league, and I'm glad I drafted Brock Bowers this year, is what I say.
And I think tight ends have been weird. I think Isaiah Likely, the backup in Baltimore, is the 5th rated tight end because
tight ends are so awful. As far as like fantasy is concerned, the tight end position is desolate.
I think this next game might be the first one we all agree on. We got Bills hosting the Titans. I think is one of the biggest favorites this week, 9.5. I'll start this one. I think the Bills should just rest Josh Allen. Just get Mitch out there. Tennessee is terrible. I think the Bills have a big addition with Amari Cooper. I do like that one a lot. And yeah, I don't even think about this one in my head. I'm taking Buffalo. What about you, Danny Stone?
You know what? I could see, because Buffalo gets the big win against the Jets. I could see them coming out and losing to the Titans. It would just be classic Buffalo. I'm going to pick Buffalo, but I will not be shocked at all if somehow the Titans win in ugly fashion. And again, I stand by this. I don't think the Titans are nearly as bad. I don't know. Will Levis might not be ready.
I think they're a cursed franchise because look at how many players go there at the end of their career, and it's just like, why? Like
that is a
Hopkins,
weird.
I like Hopkins a lot. He's always been a receiver I've always admired. The way he played with terrible quarterbacks, wasn't really much of a diva. Randy Moss.
The rumors are he says he just wants to get paid. He doesn't even care if he goes to a contender necessarily.
I believe it.
Which I like that. He's just like, get me paid. It's cool.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew, you agreeing with us? This is the first one.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
So all
Speaking of former, no. They got to get some practice shots with Allen and Cooper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think it's a big addition. I think he's good.
I do too. I think it opens things up for Coleman, who I like too. I mean, whatever. I like all the rookies. They're rookies. It's hard not to like them.
So we have something to talk about this game. So I said in the NFL, it's hard to cover big spreads. Do you think Buffalo wins by 10 or more? I think it's too big.
Big spread.
I don't know.
I think it's a Buffalo blowout or Tennessee wins on like a goofy last second field goal and Josh Allen is on the sidelines just like, I can't believe this.
Music City Miracle 2.0.
Right. Just I have to hear. And Buffalo's kicking situation might be in flux, which matters in the NFL. I mean, I suppose it matters at any level, but in the NFL certainly. That and particularly the spreads,
wind and stuff like that.
Yeah, if Tyler Bass misses a field goal, that would affect the 9.5 spread a lot. So, food for thought for any gamblers out there watching the show, which we're happy to have you.
It's funny you say that because there's so many games where it's like a 3.5 point spread or something like small, and then the kicker misses the extra point. So I think on Dan's note, I think Carpenter misses the extra point, or is it Carpenter? Oh no, Bass.
Bass for the Bills, yeah.
Bass misses the extra point and the Bills win by 9. So they don't cover.
I like that. Sure, yeah.
Oh man.
I can see it. And especially if when an NFL team's up by 9, like Josh Allen doesn't have to run around and be it's just like, fine, we'll punt it back. We're up 2 scores. Right. It's fine.
Well, the next
play a better strategy.
Yeah.
And the next game, I'll let Andrew start this one because you just brought him up. The Browns. He said you got a lot of Browns fans. So Browns are hosting Cincinnati, but Browns are an underdog at 5.5. Who are you feeling in this matchup?
Well, the Browns are underdogs for a good reason. That team. I mean, I was talking about the Falcons not showing me enough when they're on a 3-game winning streak. The Browns like that. I mean, I think Chubb's coming back soon, and I don't know if he's playing.
Yeah, he should be back. He's back.
They say he's going to play this week. I don't know what that looks like.
But I mean, it's tough to come back from that kind of injury, and he seems to always be coming back. And the Browns are always, trying to figure something out. Sean Watson hasn't really shown me enough. But I mean, the Bengals' record says one thing, but the Bengals' skill players have been playing really well. I think Joe Burrow. I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan, and I think that they're going to play really well. And I know my family, it's collectively grown, but you got to go with Bengals in this one. It's battle for Ohio. The Bengals have got to get right at some point, and if they're going to pick a week to do it, this might be it.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Nick Chubb is back. I think Ford, who was the starter until Chubb came back, he's out. So, and I imagine Nick Chubb's on a pitch count, they call it, baseball term, and it just. Cleveland's one of those teams. There's 2 teams. The other one we haven't talked about yet. There's 2 teams where I'm like, until you show me something, I just cannot take you, no matter who you play. So I have to take the Bengals. Like you said, Burrow is putting up the numbers. It's just the record's not there. I'm on the record, and Dan's vouched me multiple times that I'm not a Burrow fan. But he said one good season. But there's
which I think is a crazy take. Still.
Yeah.
I like it, though. I
mean, side topic, I think I brought up before that quarterbacks that lose their Super Bowl debut, never go back. And it's like 17 in a row.
He might be Dan Marino.
I'm saying it's like 17 in a row. Jared Goff's never been back. Cam Newton never went back. Jimmy G. The list goes on. It's 17 quarterbacks in a row.
So hard to get
Hurts.
there.
I mean, said all the recent quarterbacks, if they lose in their debut. So I don't see them ever going back to Super Bowl. It's a battle of Ohio. I guess it's tough. I mean, Browns got rid of everybody. Cooper Cup. But I think their tight ends back. But again, until they show me anything, I just can't, in good faith, ever take them. Even on a bye week, I'm taking the bye team to probably gonna lose something.
All right, you lose some valuable assets. Yeah,
I'm going to take the Bengals as well. I guess the only thing I'll add, because I think you guys covered it really well, is I believe, and I don't know the numbers, but the Browns have beaten the Bengals like more like at like 4 of the last 5 games or some stat like that. So
they usually have their number, yeah.
Yeah. So Myles Garrett, maybe they have Joe Burrow's number, but I mean they just traded Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson. Yeah, they look so bad. Joe Flacco, they should have kept him. I don't know. It is what it is.
That's what I want the Rams to get. Imagine I want a Joe Flacco instead of Jimmy G. You know, Jimmy G's out here stealing.
I like Jimmy G. All right. Well, I know. Yeah. The backup quarterback. He's stealing wives out here. Yeah.
All right. Looks great.
I like Jimmy G.
Out on the field, you're like, man.
Well, with the Raiders, him and Devontae Adams obviously had some issue that we'll never quite understand unless one of them writes a book. I don't know what happened there, but I like Jimmy G in terms of he ran Kyle Shanahan's offense. I think he can run McVay's. But to your point, Gills, I wouldn't. I don't want to actively watch Jimmy G. Like I don't.
Yeah, I think he's got a good head for the game. I think he can show coaches that give him a lot. He gives a lot of confidence to coaches when he knows the right read. He can tell you how the playbook's supposed to be run and the kind of looks. But it's the eye test for me. You know, some of the zip on the ball is a little missing. You know, we were starting to see it with some players, but Jimmy G's was pretty demonstrable. I was like, wow, okay. And if you make a bad decision on top of that, then suddenly you're like, okay, the one skill set you were really kind of leaning on is kind of missing there.
His best seasons might be behind him as far as the Super Bowl run. I don't know that we'll see that again. I could see him stepping in for a team and filling shoes. So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
He's an NFL quarterback. He belongs.
Right. And Sunday, all of a sudden, he's going to step in and be like, "Oh, it's a revenge game."
Yeah, revenge. Yeah, Stafford.
I'm a big fan of Stafford.
Stafford pulls his hammy in pregame warm-ups. Yeah, Stafford always trying too hard pregame warm-ups. He's always pushing himself.
They did say the Rams are winning at least 4 games this year, all 4 against his former team. So
that is I like that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I like all right. So we all got Bengals. That's pretty easy. Yeah, so we'll see though.
2 in a row that we agreed on. This next one's a good matchup. So I don't know. We take the streak continue. Danny Stone. I'll let you start this one. Who are you taking? Green Bay's favorite at home.
For different reasons than the New England Jacksonville game. This is a huge toss up for me, but for very different reasons. I'm going to go Packers. I like LaFleur. I like Matt LaFleur. Like, I think he gets a little mouthy with the refs sometimes, but hey, whatever. That's his business, not mine. But I like him. Dare I say I love Jordan Love. I know he has those horrific turnovers every other game or whatever, but I like the player. And last year I wrote an article for Turf Show Times. I thought the Rams with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp had the best wide receiver situation in the league. And somebody in the comments was like, what about the Packers? And I was like, ooh, that's pretty good. The Packers might have the best wide receiver situation in the league. And what Dobbs did last week after getting a team suspension and then coming in and Love's feeding him, I love it. I'm picking the Packers here, but obviously I am a big Texans guy. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Stroud finds a way. Not having Nico Collins is huge.
So I'll go next. I'm taking the Packers as well. Their Watson is back from injury.
Yep.
And he's pretty good. I have him in fantasy. The reason why I took them is Houston is missing Collins, the top receiver. That's huge. He's out for the season, I believe.
No, he should be back in a couple weeks.
Is he?
We'll see. I may or may not be trying to trade for him in a couple leagues.
And I know it's a short numbers because only it's his second season, but Stroud historically is worse on the road. So this season he's played 6 games, 3 on the road, 3 at home. He has less passing yards. He's taken more sacks and thrown, I think, double interceptions on the road. Looking at last season, he had 11 more touchdowns at home, over 800 more passing yards at home. So historically he's worse on the road. I still think he's a good quarterback, but I think in this environment, I don't think it's too cold yet in Green Bay. I don't know, but I can't take Stroud.
Lambeau's a seam though. I don't hate that take. I think Stroud is comfortable.
Yeah.
I will say, to push back a little bit, I think Stroud is comfortable letting the defense win. Like, I think he's really it's so corny, but he's wise beyond his years. He's like, I just want to win. I don't need to throw up 400, 200 yards this game. It's fine. But I agree with you, though. I'm picking the Packers, too. Yeah. So
you agreeing with us, Andrew? Keeping the streak going? They're all agreeing? Or?
I like the Green Bay Packers. I'm a big fan. Jordan Love's from my hometown. Same as Derek Carr. And Julio Dobbs. I watched him play in college. UNR. Let's go Wolfpack. Josh Jacobs was my keeper. That's how much of an invested in the Packers.
Former Raider.
But I don't know. The Texans look really, really good. The end of last year, Jordan Love was kind of coming on. They're starting to put it together. This year, it starts to seem like they're getting some momentum. But the CJ Stroud, not only is he very good, maybe not too good on the road, but he's really confident. Is something that's kind of shocking to me. His level of confidence in his team, the way he carries himself. Everybody's talking about his Wonderlic score, but suddenly no one remembers when he starts winning games. So you're like, all right, yeah. My heart
I like
says
that.
Packers, but I don't know. My head kind of says that the Texans might be pulling this one out. I'm gonna go ahead and go with. All right, we'll just keep it simple. I'll keep with the Packers. I think that they're gonna have it this week. I don't know if it's gonna be. It's certainly not gonna be a blowout, but I'll go with Packers. I'll say it's safe, but I mean, if I start reaching out on too many branches, all of a sudden I'm gonna have an upside down guessing record, and they're like, that dude's not coming back on the guess. That dude's terrible.
I've had some horrific weeks and this year, and we say it every year, but this year in the NFL has been so goofy. I whether it's Jim Rome or Mike Florio, like everybody's kind of owned, like the picks have not been great. That I'm aware of. That picks have been really tough this year. Games have been goofy. Will Anderson could wreck this game. I don't think Houston's a bad pick at all, but
we were talking about, back-to-back first-round picks. Like they did the whole draft day scenario where they get all their guys in the first and they move back in the first and get their guy. That's
D'Amico Ryans looks real. It looks real.
And I know Nico Collins is a big lad. I'm a big fan of Tank Dell. I watched him before he broke his leg last year, and I was like, wow, okay, this guy's got some stuff.
They have Joe Mixon back, which matters, I think.
Big difference.
Yeah.
I almost went Texans. Let's put it that way. Yeah. If whoever wins, I was right. That's what matters. Yeah.
Right. I'm picking Packers, though, but I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have red zone. Maybe I should go buy a second TV, have the red zone on one TV and Rams on the other, because I kind of want to watch this game. But
this should be a good one.
And then
as a Rams fan, I'm rooting for Houston just because I want the NFC teams to lose.
Especially because we play Vikings. It's a short week, so it's like
correct.
That's going to affect the NFC North.
And we lost to the Packers earlier, so they got the tie
already.
So it's a whole thing.
So we go from an exciting matchup to one that I will start with. We have Miami as an underdog going into Indy. So earlier I said Cleveland is one of two teams. Miami is the other team where until they show me anything, I just cannot take them. But Indy is missing, I think, Jonathan Taylor again.
Yes.
So this is not a game I want to touch, but I have to pick somebody. I have just said until Miami can do anything without Tua, I just can't take them. So I'm taking Indy. Dan, what about you?
Yeah, I think on the Rich Eisen show, which I heard them but they have a take that Tua might win MVP, kind of like Peyton Manning did by not playing, just because they look lost without Tua. I'm going to pick the Colts as well. I actually think the Colts are better with Joe Flacco starting. Anthony Richardson's super talented. I just think Joe Flacco's a better NFL quarterback right now, and Anthony Richardson gets the start. But I'm going to take the Colts as well for the reasons you said. I could maybe Miami squeaks it out. They beat New England, which I was surprised by a couple weeks ago. But I'm going to take the Colts here as well. And I'm waiting for Adonai Mitchell to show me something. Come on, buddy.
I was thinking the caveat is I think if Richardson starts, then I'll probably take Miami. I don't believe in Richardson.
Richardson is starting. I'm 90. The thing is, though, SamMeeBee, I said that last week and I was wrong. So do your own research. But this week they're saying he's starting.
But I've heard too.
Yeah. I liked him, and then I finally hit me that maybe he's just overhyped. I don't know. He hasn't played many games in his career. College.
I don't think he's played 20 football games.
No.
Literally,
it's like the
whole COVID year and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's a whole thing. It's like, is it sexual harassment? Well, if he looks good, no. So it's like he's looks good. Everyone likes him. All right.
Well, he's had some really good passes to Alec Pierce, so I'll give him some credit as far as he's had some moments, but it's flashes. It's not consistent. And
it was like I saw a stat somewhere where he had a better completing percentage if it's like 40 yards or more compared to 5 or less. So he's it down.
Yeah, that's not. As cool as that stat sounds, it's not what you want.
It's not. So. All right, Andrew, what about you? Who are you taking this toilet bowl game?
That's a tough one. I think, like you guys were saying, I think it comes down to quarterbacks. I would say not regardless of who's starting for the Colts, but it seems like both quarterbacks give them different ways to win the game.
Yep.
And the loss of Tua kind of puts a big kibosh on the Dolphins. As a big Dolphins fan coming into the year, I think they're really well coached. I don't think it's going to be, as the spread shows, it's going to be a really close game. I was starting the Miami Dolphins defense still, even after Tua went down, but I think the Colts are going to get this. I think if Richardson starts, his rushing attack from the quarterback position is pretty effective. It's a big X factor for his game. He may not be able to throw it 5 yards and instead wants to throw it 40, but he can still get those, a 12-yard run, and it'll just devastating for defenses if you can't cover him properly. And if you can't catch up. But Michael Pittman Jr. is on my fantasy team. I like when Flacco plays. When Flacco's out, we just bench Pittman, but you can still expect the Colts to win, I think. And from what I heard, I think Richardson's playing this week, so I'll go Colts.
Ugly game.
I
still like Mike McDaniel, though. I agree, Gillies. I wouldn't, even if I wouldn't get rid of him. I don't think he should be on the hot seat. Good coach.
Do you see that fan that makes those videos every week? How can you not be hyped up?
The Colts video.
Yeah, that guy.
Right.
How can you not be hyped up, man? Come on.
Well, the 2-4 record might say otherwise or whatever.
And then because they don't pump that song in the stadium. I think if they played that for the run out, they'd be winning.
Yeah.
You know what?
Run through a brick wall. And you're like,
I've heard worse strategy. Jonathan Taylor being out. Well, but still, we're all picking the Colts. But
so this next matchup's a pretty good one.
Yes,
Lions, Vikings. I will say, I don't know if you saw the stat. If you look at point differential this season, the top 4 teams is all from this division.
Yeah,
I believe that.
They have 4 teams that can make the playoffs. Yeah,
I'm not going to start with this one, but I do want to highlight the over/under preseason win total for the Vikings was 6.5. So if they win this, it'll be 6-0, and then they already just need one more win for their. So I'm not sure who I'm going to take yet. I'm kind of in the middle. I do have some notes, but I'll let Dan start this one. It's a great matchup. Who are you taking?
I'm gonna a couple personal notes. SamMeeBee and I are in like a league where we pick teams to like earn wins and we get points. Most points, you win something or whatever. And if I pick the Patriots and Panthers because I just wanted to pick more teams, and I could have pooled the fake money I paid for the Patriots and Panthers and just paid for the Vikings. And man, hindsight is a real killer because the Vikings look great, and I wish I would have picked them. I had no idea they were going to be this good. I like Kevin O'Connell a lot. I just didn't think the defense had the horses. But Brian Flores, they bring in Stephon Gilmore. I'm going to pick the Vikings, but I'll throw this out there. I still love Jared Goff. I'm a big Jared Goff guy. I'll always be rooting for him, except when he plays the Rams. If he can, he got embarrassed by Brian Flores in the first Super Bowl, his only Super Bowl with Sean McVay, and the only Super Bowl that he's been to, which brings back to your point earlier, SamMeeBee, as far as quarterbacks getting and not coming back. Hopefully he gets to the Super Bowl again, as long as it doesn't hurt the Rams, which whatever. But Brian Flores embarrassed him, and then I believe to his rookie season, Brian Flores as head coach, he embarrassed Goff again. And I remember as a Rams fan, I'm just like, what is Jared Goff's problem? Like, he just can't. So this would be a huge win for him. I really believe that. If Ben Johnson and Jared Goff can beat Brian Flores, I'll actually be saying the Lions are the top team in the NFC. I'll say that Goff has actually turned huge corners beyond what I even thought. But I'm going to go with Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings. I think they get a win here, but I really like the Lions. It's no disrespect to the Lions, who I like a lot, but the Aiden Hutchinson loss, I'm going to pick the Vikings.
Yeah. Andrew, who are you thinking in this one?
Dan already took my thunder, that end part. Aiden Hutchinson, that's a huge loss. I feel like he plays a big role. If he was still in this game, it'd be, I wouldn't say it would be way more difficult, but it's definitely a difficult, more decision. I mean, the Vikings, that's the big thing. A lot of teams, I would say most teams in the NFL, if their big superstars out, you're like, man, that team doesn't have a chance. But the Vikings have found ways to win. They've been really well. Like, no one really saw them coming in. Most people were like, that quarterback situation that captures a lot of people's imagination, but they've been able to do a really good job with a reliable veteran and who makes good decisions for him, puts him in good position to win games. So I got to go Vikings. But I'm a big fan of the Lions. I like what they did. I'm a Raiders fan, so I'm like, wow, sticking with the head coach, even if he loses in the first season? Like, what? Crazy. What are you doing? You're like, what? He's building a team, morons. So what are you doing? Yeah. Right. But I like Dan Campbell. I like that team. I think it's a good team. And, I expect both these teams to be, one is already on its way, to a playoffs position. The other ones, should be there. I'd be surprised if they didn't make it.
I think both are still relevant in late November, December, January, yet to be determined. But yeah, I think both these teams are relevant a month from now, 2 months from now.
I haven't looked it up, so I don't know if any of it's true. Was there really talks of Crosby going to Detroit?
That's what people are saying. Yeah. But when the owner of the team is like, absolutely not. And like the guy literally has the shield tattoo on him. Mm-hmm. So probably shouldn't get rid of those guys. If Davante Adams is the head, in my head, I'm like, oh, Davante Adams is probably the best player on the team. But in my heart, I know Double X is the best player on the Raiders team. And if you're really going to sink a season and you want to lose everybody showing up to games, you get rid of a guy like that. He's missed a single game during the regular season his entire career. Yeah. That kind of commitment. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
This year was his first missed game ever as a defensive lineman. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. I remember
he is that good though. Like I had him for defensive player of the year last year, and we did a preseason show, SamMeeBee. It went to TJ Watt, who incredible talent. I shouldn't overlook him at all. But I think Max Crosby is that. He is that level of like game wrecker, game changer. Like, he's so good. Yeah. You know what though? And I'll throw out Turf Show times. And a rumor like that, SamMeeBee, to answer the Max Crosby thing, it takes a writer like me, literally, like, should the Rams trade for Xavier Worthy? Like whatever. Just like you can do question articles like that, and then they kind of can blow up. It's easier said than done, but I don't think there's any validity to that rumor, is what I'm saying. I just think people like to talk about it.
Yeah,
it's more like
what I
was on Reddit goes there to the Lions.
Yeah.
I think
I have a similar job to Dan. Like I work in journalism. Like when there was this question, oh, should Biden drop out? If you put that on the zeitgeist, suddenly everybody's like, oh, okay, this guy's saying it. Like, who's this wackadoo?
Right.
You're like, oh, I just did an interview where like, hey, should he drop out? What should happen? Who should be the next person? It's getting out in the zeitgeist. And this time of year, as the trade deadline is approaching, teams are looking at other teams. I've seen a lot of like Reddit threads where people are like, oh, we'll trade for Max Crosby and we'll kick something to the Raiders, so let's pick it up. You're like, I don't think he's going for less than multiple first. Like that's it, straight up. Like
you want to keep Max Crosby to keep interest in your team, and like if it doesn't work out with Antonio Pierce, like at least it's like, well, we have Max Crosby, and like a coach can be like, I can work with a Max Crosby.
Exactly.
But you know what? Stranger things have happened. We'll see.
Yeah, it's true.
But I don't think he's getting traded, but you never know. I didn't think Russell Wilson was getting traded either.
I play Silverback, and that's
he's liking posts on Instagram and stuff. Like, who knows what's going on?
No one liked the trade rumor yet.
But yeah, Andrew, you brought up a good point. Like, the fans are gonna turn. You know, I don't know if fans are still pretty mad about the move. You know, I'm from Erie, PA, so the Rams move from St. Louis to LA didn't bother me at all. So like, I don't know. I do know some fans that are still hurt by that move. I know it was years ago, but so yeah, you don't want to hurt the fans more.
I almost wrote Oakland Raiders when I was doing my article. I started writing it Wednesday. I'm still
Las Vegas Raiders.
I did once in a while too.
I got wrapped in a Los Angeles Raiders blanket when I was born. So yeah.
Yeah, I was reading an article and they had actually wrote down Los Angeles Raiders. I was like, well, I mean, that was right at one point.
Sure, yeah, that's true. Won a Super Bowl area.
And I looked up last year. Yeah, last year you did take Max Crosby. I had TJ Watt for Defensive Player of the Year. And I was also a year early. I took the Vikings last year to win the division. So there's so many takes last year. I was a year early.
But I like Kevin O'Connell a lot for the Vikings. I think that's kind of why I think him and Brian Flores can scheme and just deal with situations in a way that a lot of coaches can't. And maybe I'm wrong. Kevin O'Connell's going on year 3. He's got a long way to go, I guess you could say. But I'm a believer.
And in case you didn't know, Minnesota was on a bye last week, so they're well rested. Detroit played Dallas. I called it like a revenge game.
They crushed Dallas.
Last year ended. They crushed them. And I think they're clicking. And despite the injury, I'm taking the Lions. I
like it.
They have the good receivers. I know St. Brown's off a slow start, but Jameson Williams has been doing pretty good. I can see him going for a deep touchdown, maybe 2. So
Tim Patrick had a nice game, I believe. Yeah. They might have a third.
The injury is obviously really huge, but I think their offense is explosive enough to keep them in it. So we will go ahead and go with them.
Oh, did we lose him?
Oh man, we might have lost Andrew for a second.
Sonic and Knuckles, Montgomery and Gibbs. I like it. I like the Lions pick.
I hope his computer didn't die. Was he on his laptop?
I don't know. Let me check my phone.
He bleeds because this I'm bleeding blue with the Detroit Lions. that song is so good. I'm gonna use it for the Rams.
I like it. Hey,
blue.
We need him blue. I don't know. Looks like the Steelers are going to start Russell Wilson.
Oh, don't worry. I have some stuff loaded ready for that game. I can't wait to get to that one.
I'm excited. We'll see if he can.
Yeah, we need Andrew back.
He's back.
Next game.
I thought it was just
perfect. You're back just in time for the game.
No, that is nice that this app or whatever kind of lets you get back in that way.
Yeah.
We filled the dead air okay. We're better with you, though.
Oh, thank you very much. I thought I was feeling the dead air. I saw the red dot still. I was like, ooh, okay, here we go.
All right, so we got Andrew back just in time to get to the Saquon Bowl. We got the Giants, only a 3-point underdog. I know I mentioned earlier how Philly doesn't score in the first quarter. Kind of interesting to look at the odds of this one.
It's a weird stat.
What's the weird? Oh, the first quarter?
Yeah, because they haven't had A.J. Brown and Devontae. That's just a weird. Well, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they score the first quarter in this one.
Okay, I don't think they do. Who are you taking on this one?
I'm gonna take the Eagles. I'm not a big Daniel Jones fan. I mean, I don't think. I guess I'm torn. I think he gets too much hate, but I'm part of the hater crowd, so I'm a bit of a hypocrite. But I'm gonna go Jalen Hurts and the Eagles in this one. Yeah, I just don't believe in the Giants. I like that Tyrone Tracy though. I've got him in a couple leagues.
Remember last week I had those like the stats of Daniel Jones versus Patrick Mahomes, and he outplayed him or not. So.
Yeah, you had the quarterback stats. Yeah, that is one of those. Yes, but if you actually watch those guys play, I think it is far and away obvious that Daniel Jones is the better quarterback than Patrick. Yeah, that's an insane. Funny numbers do lie. I like Brian Burns. I don't dislike the Giants. They're getting Malik Neighbors back, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the Eagles.
Yeah, he's projected like 20 fantasy points, something crazy.
Yeah, he's really good.
I'll go next in this one. Philly had 3 big injuries last week. One of them is Jordan Mailata, and that's how you say it. And a PFF had him ranked as like I think a top guard or whatever. So it's a huge blow to the team.
You're right.
New York has a better pass rush defense, and I think because Nick Sirianni's play calling, I think he's be too aggressive, and this would keep the Giants in it. Like I think it's gonna be ugly, but I'm taking Danny Dimes in this one. I think it's the play call. I think Nick Sirianni is going to keep them in it.
Kellen Moore has been interesting. I don't really know what Nick Sirianni does for the Eagles. Like I don't know. I don't know. I know that's disrespectful.
I don't know. I don't want the Giants to win because I don't know the Rams. I don't know. I want the Eagles to win the division because I picked them, but
fair.
I just think that coach, I don't like him.
We'll talk about the NFC East division leader and winner later.
So I wanted to go second because Andrew, I thought it'd be wild taking the Giants. So you got to be the tiebreaker. Who are you taking here?
Oh man, I know. It always comes down to me.
The division game too.
Tracy. And I like Singletary. I thought he was pretty good. I think that they cancel each other out. I think that they are probably going to play both and try to limit touches for both. And I think that's going to be bad for the team. I think if they were to stick with one over the other and like put one as a featured back or something like that, it might make a bigger difference. And the Eagles did have some injuries, but they seem to keep plowing through with what they like to do, which is pound the rock. And that a kind of aggressive play calling. I don't know if Siri wants to get yelled at from the sidelines anymore. Run the damn ball. Like I mean, I've yelled at a Raiders coach. No one listens to me, but apparently he listens to his fans. I think the Eagles might have this one if they put together a solid game plan, like run the ball and then to stick what they're good at there. That tush push, I haven't seen it fail yet for the Eagles. Other teams have tried it, and it looks like they might blow out.
I think it failed last year against the Bucs in the playoffs, but to your point, short of that, it still works even without Jason Kelce, which is kind of amazing. Yeah,
surprising, very surprising.
Good take.
Yeah, that kind of talent. But but I think if they can run the ball effectively, it might be like I don't know if Saquon scored in the first quarter, but I know the next 3, he's a good bet to put the ball in the end zone.
I'm a believer in revenge games. I think that, and the Giants, man, after that Hard Knocks, how bad did they look? I thought they looked really foolish. But you know what? I'll give them credit where credit's due. That was a huge win over Seattle.
Well, man, I watched that Receivers the documentary. In my entire fantasy strategy, so don't listen to me.
You've got Adams. I didn't think about that. Jefferson. I hadn't thought of that's really funny.
I was like, this is it. That's all we need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Amon-Ra, where the heck are you? Yeah.
I love Justin Jefferson. We didn't even mention him as a reason that the Vikings can beat Detroit.
Yeah, I think it'd be explosive.
I guess he doesn't even need to be mentioned. Everybody knows.
I hope not. Yeah.
I think Jordan Mailata injuries would be huge. I could see them
not
push. Saquon's over under yards right now, 80.5. You think he goes over?
You got to go over. Just as a fan of football, unless you're a Giants fan, I think you got to go over. But bet responsibly, and I'm not going to make this bet for anybody watching and or listening, but I would say take the over.
Here's what I'm curious in: Jalen Hurts rush attempts, because I don't think he's rushing as much as he did his first few years. Because I remember in the Super Bowl when it was Eagles Chiefs, I took over his rush attempts. It was a large. I don't want to say how many units I had on it, but it was a large bet, and he had it at halftime.
I think you were texting me
already.
Yeah. So I'm going to look at that begin because kneel downs count, but I don't see him doing as many QB sneaks with Mailata out and Kelce obviously retired. So I'm going to look at that because my first guess is under 9.5, but I'm going to look into that after the show.
Jalen Hurts,
or even designed runs. They used to do more designed runs. It looked like where they kind of relied on their offensive line a little bit more. I feel like they're cutting back on that. The risk of losing him.
I like Jalen Hurts. I just can't tell. My Eagles buddy, he's done with it. Like he's like, I'll take Gardner Minshew back, which I think he's kind of kidding, but kind of not. Eagles fans are crazy. Yeah, I like Jalen Hurts, but I don't know. I mean,
like, have you seen his bench or for his squat? Jalen Hurts,
right? Yeah, which is
forget
he should be pushing the sled like Russell Wilson.
He's bending the bar, my man.
Yeah, I do like Jalen Hurts. I think he picks his spots. To your guys' point, he doesn't run like he used to.
Right. This one's interesting. They have kicker points. Both kickers at 6.5, which would basically be 2 field goals and an extra point. So
is Greg Joseph? I didn't know. Oh, because New York lost their kicker. That's right. So they have Greg Joseph was like banished for a little while, if memory serves. He did the Vikings. Him and Zimmer, I think, had a falling out of sorts because he was just not making kicks.
That's the thing with kickers, though. They'll be terrible on one team, and all of a sudden they show up. And
right. It's such a mental game.
Daniel Carlson, you're like, whoa, okay. How are they the most accurate kicker in the NFL when we cut them? You're like, oh, well.
I think of Matt Gay for the Rams. I mean, he was a savior the year they win the Super Bowl. Tampa cut him. They were good on it. And then he comes in for the Rams, and he's like, I'm really good from 45 and under. Like, I don't miss, really.
I know.
There's a reason most franchise points leaders are kickers. Because
the
liability, the time they spend on the team, and stuff like that. So
what, Sebastian Janikowski? I guess you know all about that. Yeah.
Well, speaking of kickers, Brandon McManus is back in the NFL.
Yes, he is.
Say about picking him up. I forgot what team picked him up again. You remember?
The Packers.
It was the Packers.
So that'd be. I mean, I imagine if you're in a fantasy league with kickers, I think I saw statistically, except for this year, this has been an odd year. I think like 1 through 15, the points it's like a 5-point difference from like the first place kicker to 15. So I never really cared for kicker. But if you're in need of one, I think he could be able to take a flyer on before he has a good game. You know, he was a good kicker. So.
The Packers would have a lot more field goals if that rookie didn't miss 5 or whatever the number is. Yeah. So I think that's actually not a bad take, SamMeeBee.
The kickers, that margin for error, that difference between the top versus the mid tier there is very tight. Just like quarterbacks, it's kind of like you can't sit there and be like, oh, this superstar is always going to deliver when that margin is a couple points here and there for 10 spots difference. So
yeah. So
they might narrow the goalposts and we'll weed out the real ones.
Better hope if they
or it'll be moving. Yeah, all kinds.
Lambeau Field. Yeah,
that's why I never understood like the arena football kickers. They had that narrow one. So like, why don't they hire those guys?
Yep.
So the Saquon score the first touchdown.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would take that. Or AJ Brown's probably a good one. Granted, and I do disrespect the Giants, but like, good gosh. We can't envision Danny Dimes running one in, just kind of, I don't know, but anything could happen with the first touchdown. Who knows?
So the last few weeks, sorry to cut you off. I've been doing these a lot. Combined passing yards. I mean, I know I prefer MGM, not a sponsor yet.
Not yet.
I don't know
this episode.
So they have combined 428.5 for Hurts and Jones passing yards. I got to look into that. I don't even know how.
What's the rushing total? Because I think it's a rush for combined. Yeah, I think it's a rushing game because Gilly's mentioned Singletary and Tyrone.
They don't have a combined rushing total.
But they know that they'd be a win because it's
everybody's
the over. They can't pick a number. Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's going to be a heavy rush game. I take the under on passing. Maybe I'm foolish.
Let's see, because individually you have 216 for Hurts, 212 for Daniel Dimes.
Oof, I don't know. That's why they get paid.
Neighbors being back is a big difference too.
Huge. I think Neighbors is.
I mean, there's all fun one like this combined pass completions 40.5. Do they combine
each? It's 20.
Yeah, I think so. They could, because Danny Dimes could be in hurry up mode, just doing checkdowns. Heck, I keep saying the Giants are going to be behind. The Eagles could be behind. Yeah. I mean, I would take over 40 passes if I'm
thinking under 40. I'm going to look into that.
Do it.
I started writing down. I got to look up after the video 2-point conversion attempts, Hurts under pass attempts.
This might be a defensive game. There might not even be 80 offensive plays. So who knows?
So I can't remember what else I said to look up, but the 3 I'm going to look up to research the under. This game I got a lot. I'm taking under first quarter.
Yeah.
Oh man. And that's a fun one. But yeah, I'm different from you guys. I'm taking the Giants. Danny Dimes. I think New York's rolling right now. Yankees are
like Brian Burns.
The fans are there. So I think things are rocking in New Jersey, wherever they're at.
I like it. We'll see.
All right, let's see. We got a couple more matchups to go through. I think the next one's a good one too.
This is a long form episode, but I'm enjoying it. I appreciate it.
I know.
I hope you guys are having half as much fun as me.
So Buffalo and Washington are the biggest spreads this week because Washington's also favored by 9.5. I know I've said before in the NFL, it's so hard. No matter how bad a team is, it's so hard to cover. So I mean, I am taking Washington here, no question. Honestly, about that, Danny Dime. Who are you taking? Daniel Stone. Sorry,
you're good. No, it's a compliment. I'm going to take Washington. Again, I'm not a betting man, and I'm not going to put money where my mouth is on this. I think Washington covers. I don't think this game's close. I hope I have reason to root for the Panthers because again, I pick them in that league I'm in where I want them to win games, so I get points. But I picked the Commanders in that league too, though. So I guess whatever. It's a wash. I'm going with the Commanders. Jaden Daniels looks legit. It's crazy.
Real legit.
Yeah.
Man. And he's playing right. You know, if he doesn't see it, he's bringing the ball down, and that's something you want from a rookie. Like he's making pro decisions.
He looks great.
In his first year. Right, and I like the rest of that offensive backfield. Brian Robinson Jr. is fun. Austin Eckler's cool. Big fan of that. I'm all over the Commanders on this one. I watched the Carolina Panthers beat the Raiders, so I can't say they're the worst team in the NFL. But
that was the Andy Dalton start. Yeah. That was the first start for Andy. Yeah.
Right. I took a flyer on Bryce Young in our fantasy league. So, yeah, I don't know anything about football. So just take everything I say.
It won't be shocking at all if he goes somewhere else and has an okay career, but it doesn't look like it's happening.
I think he needs some platform shoes. Those offensive linemen aren't getting any shorter. So
no. Well, that's actually valid. That's super valid. I like Leggett. I like some of the Panthers players.
Yeah.
I've been holding on to Jonathan Brooks all season, the running back rookie. I'm hoping he comes back. He'll be back this week. Hopefully he comes back next week because that's the league. I drafted CMC and I took a flyer on Brooks late. So I think it was last week I had my backup quarterback and then the rest of my players were all hurt on a bye. So I had no one on my
Shout out my girlfriend. She got her first fantasy win this year against you in that league that we're in. She was so happy. Your team was deflated.
You just look down the list of like
it's rough.
You're like, damn.
She's like, I'm not going to beat him. I'm like, you actually have a shot. Like his team is wounded.
Yeah. That's actually of all I'm in 3 leagues. That's the league I had the best team in. The other 2, I'm 1 in 5, whatever the record would be. Yeah. So I'm terrible.
It's tough. It's a harsh mistress, as Archer would say.
With this one, I think if I saw right, Washington offensively is in top 10 every category, and then Carolina is bottom 5 in every defensive category. So could be a blowout, but like I said, if it's a spread this large, it's the NFL. I can't take it. But
maybe Carolina gets a win. Washington coming off that Baltimore loss. Maybe Carolina finds a way. Deontay Johnson, Chuba Hubbard. I know everybody loves Jonathan Brooks. I want to see it too. But Chuba Hubbard's out there churning yards. I don't know. Let's see.
All right, now we got another fun one. This is a 4 p.m. game Eastern time.
Yeah, this is great.
I know our buddy Mac's not here. He's got his team, San Francisco, hosting Kansas City.
Is he picking the Niners?
What was that?
Is he picking the Niners?
I haven't asked him yet. I can ask him, but this will be a fun one. I'm excited. Andrew, what are you feeling about this Super Bowl rematch?
Oh, this one's not even a question. Yeah, no. I mean, the Chiefs have a good team. They're well coached, and they seem to put a lot of talent. The receiving core is always undersized, but well utilized. I think that Andy Reid's always been really good at that. I mean, back on the Eagles, he was doing that stuff too. But I like the Niners. Niners are a really good team. They're really well-rounded. I like seeing the way they run the ball consistently. I think that wins you a lot of games, like as a starting position. And I think they commit to a really good run game. I got to take Niners on this one. I think they're fun to watch. The way they put other players in good positions too. I think they might win this one against the Chiefs. They'll grind out the clock, and I think they play good defense too. So Niners.
Man, I mean, it's good. I mean, it's only 1.5 point.
I know, right?
Close. Dan, what are you taking in this?
For our longtime listeners, if you know, you know. And SamMeeBee tries to record these. I'll say wow every now and again, but at least once an episode, somebody will have a take, and I'm like, wow. And I just caught myself saying, wow. I'm going Chiefs. I'm going to keep picking the Chiefs till they lose a game. I could definitely see the Niners coming in, revenge game, super good team. I'm a Brock Purdy believer. I hate to say that as a Rams fan, but I actually think Brock Purdy's the real deal. I don't think it's fluky. I don't think it's just scheme. I mean, it is classic if he goes to a different team, does he do what he does? But whatever. Like, to me, that's a foolish argument. He's with the Niners. He's crushing it. He's great. But I'm gonna take the Chiefs. I think it mind boggles me that people are like, the Chiefs don't look very good. It's like we've seen this dance the 2 years in a row, not to mention the year, like they do this thing where they don't look very good, but they're winning games. Like they have the best quarterback in the NFL, maybe the best quarterback like ever, which is crazy just for what he brings to the table. Yeah, I got to go the Chiefs. Yeah, but I like the Niners though for all the reasons Andrew said. Niners are a good team, really good team.
Like you said, it's crazy what Brock Purdy's doing. I mean, maybe it's because being a Rams fan, knowing the Kurt Warner story, like for Purdy to be Mr. Irrelevant and get in his first play, I think it's against the Raiders, he went the opposite way of the running back. Like, I think it's crazy. And even though I don't like the Niners, he's great. And the Chiefs, two seasons.
I watched Nick Mullins destroy the Raiders, and you're like, who is this guy? You're like,
Kyle Shanahan's a genius. He gets a bad rap for that Super Bowl loss. He's a genius.
And then last 2 years, Chiefs traded for a receiver, and that receiver helped them in the playoffs and Super Bowl. And so with their injuries, I wonder if they trade for somebody like Cooper Kupp. I knew they were not going to get Adams because same division.
That's a Peter Schrager. Again, just a rumor that I feel like Peter Schrager said on Good Morning NFL, and it's like they're going to trade for Cooper Kupp. There's no validity to it, but it is interesting, and you never know.
I mean, statistically, it's a good matchup. So you had the San Francisco's third most rush yards. Kansas City's got the fifth best rush defense. I think that Mason might be hurt, so I did pick up the backup just in case for the third string. But this is the 10th time that the Super Bowl has a rematch the following season, and the winner is 6-3 historically. Mahomes is 2-0 against Shanahan as when he's been a head coach of San Francisco.
They've only played each other in the 2 Super Bowls. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that's regular season too. And then Andy Reid after bye is 21-4. So I am taking the Chiefs to go to this house and steal a win, if you know what I mean.
He's 2-0. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And Andy Reid's post-bye wins. It's
yes.
Insane. They used to play the Raiders every year after their bye and just
crush them.
Waxed them. Yeah. And he's a good coach. Week 1 is a good example of that, right? Like coming into it, Xavier Worthy gets touches in ways that are really unique. And I was like, that's great coaching right there. So
yeah.
It helped you get Justin Jefferson for me. I'll tell you what. I think Xavier Worthy's really good, and they're going to scheme up plays for him.
No offense to Javonte Williams, but he was not the kind of guy that I was missing when that trade went down.
100%. Justin Jefferson's a top NFL player. Like that trade's really interesting. I think that trade that we made so fast
gotten better. I think it's less people are like, that was a terrible trade, and more like, okay, with some injuries.
I think it's a really interesting trade. I agree. Tough to give up Justin Jefferson, I'll admit, though. I love that dude.
I think the Niners are on that third kicker because they keep getting hurt. So they signed Carlson, the former.
I like that. So that's why Carlson's been in your head all show. There it is.
Yeah. Anders, his brother. Yeah,
he got picked up. The
Raiders kicker's little brother.
Oh, you're not even making a joke. I thought you were making a joke. Okay,
I'm not making a joke.
So it's like genetic. Okay, that's really interesting.
So I looked up the first touchdown score. Jordan Mason is the favorite, but right behind him, almost the same odds. You got 600 and 650 is the backup to him, Isaac. I don't even know how you say that last name. So it looks like they do think that. I wonder if they think this guy's going to get more carries. So I did pick up this Isaac guy just in case.
I have a bad take that I don't really like Jordan Mason in terms of football. People are like, he's so good. It's like literally Kyle Shanahan could put not just anybody, but NFL talent back there, and they churn running backs out. So I totally get why they're thinking that the other running back could have as good of the day, because his scheme is brilliant.
Because you called him out, I'm putting a revenge game. Jordan Mason heard what you said. He's putting $10.
I like Jordan Mason. I just don't think he's special.
He's scored 3 touchdowns now. Now we're gonna be wrong.
He belongs in the NFL. He's proven that he belongs in the NFL for sure.
Let's look at this one. Combined passing yards. 489 for Mahomes and Purdy. You think?
Yeah, I think you go over.
Yeah, I think I gotta look into that. I can see that going over.
Chiefs defense is. I could see this being like 16-13.
I say
Chris Jones killing it.
Chris Jones is an exceptional player. That guy's kind of a bedrock player. If it's over, I think the Chiefs have the advantage. If it's under, the Niners do. So it comes down the way I would look at it that way, right?
Combined
passing yards,
Kyle Shanahan doesn't have a problem running it 40 times and just being like, I'm not going to let Patrick touch the ball in this regular season game. I can see it.
Or vice versa. Kansas City takes the lead and it's going to run the clock out. I can see that.
And Kareem Hunt has looked good. It's funny. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Combined passing completions 43.5. So then they have 3 more higher than Danny Dimes
Right.
and Hurts. So that's what I'm saying.
Good
I
grief.
got to research that, but I'm definitely thinking the under in that one.
This could be a defensive. This could be a low scoring. Both teams have a good defense.
And
you got Nick
Mahomes,
Bosa on the other side for the Niners.
So Mahomes last season, I took his over rush attempts a lot because he would kneel down a lot and he would do
That's
random
a good-
scrambles. So
Right.
him and Hurts for the year they went to the Super Bowl and last year, I would do a lot of Mahomes over rush attempts.
I love when you share stuff like that because that's such a good take. Like I wouldn't have thought of that. That's great.
Yeah,
He kneels
they do.
down a
Counts.
lot.
That victory formation is still formation.
Yeah, that's great.
And then
You
what's
got to
weird
practice
is
that play.
I think in college,
Yeah.
a sack counts as lost yards, but a sack doesn't affect a quarterback in the NFL at all statistically.
Right. It's like negative
I didn't
X
know
number of
that.
yards from the sack.
Yeah, I didn't know that either
Big
until I
difference.
looked it up. Yeah,
But
go
you
to a
can
box
be
score.
tackled for a loss, but if you're sacked, you won't lose those yards. Okay, I guess you guys are right.
NFL.
I've watched in the NFL.
Big for betting.
You can do
That's super interesting.
Combined rushing and receiving. So again, these are MGM odds, so I do like MGM. Kareem Hunt, 66.5. Debo, 69.5. I think this is rushing and receiving. So, all right, that was fun. And I think now the next matchup, I think the next one's Sunday night. Let me pull it up here. Yep. So we got Sunday night. We got the New York Packers going to Pittsburgh Steelers, and Jets are actually favored by 1.5, probably because of Devontae.
Yeah.
That flight, he cured him. He's good to go. That was a magical feeling.
Same with Jalen Ramsey's back issue when he got traded to the Rams. Funny how that happens.
It always the hammy's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Campbell's chunky.
Oh my!
Soup.
I'm loving the memes that are out there.
The facility.
Aaron Rodgers gave him some medication as it were.
So you lost
some ayahuasca.
Uh-huh.
Andrew, since you lost Devontae Adams, I mean, what are you feeling for this game? I'll let you start with this one.
Well, thanks for that. And they just lost the Steelers too, and Steelers are a well-coached team. I always seem to go back to that. They seem to do pretty well, and the Jets. I can't even say Erline, the guy who was elevated to the interim head coach for the Jets. They were close in that game. Like
Aldridge?
I watched the post-game press conference when Aaron Rodgers was explaining, like, we get a couple catches and we win this game. And they're like, and we're talking about, something goofy or we're nailing it down. And I was like, that's true. A single field goal against a team like the Bills. So the Jets have the talent, and if they can put it together, is it happening this week? Probably, now that the Devontae's there. And as a true Raiders fan, I need Devontae to do well, so that conditional pick turns into a second rounder.
Yeah,
but he makes the second All Pro. I'm starting Devontae Adams. I think he's going to play better than obviously better than the last 3 weeks. Where
he hasn't played, has he? He hasn't.
Right now, he's
on my fantasy team. As I said last week, all my team, everyone's on a bye except for my backup quarterback.
And you couldn't drop him.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
right.
Adams, Hill,
but who has the edge here? I think the Jets played well enough last week, even in a loss, to where I was like, if they could get a spark or get something that gives them over the edge, and somebody like Devontae Adams is certainly that kind of X factor in this game. I got to go Jets so we can get a second rounder next year. As sad as that sounds, I shouldn't be thinking about the draft.
Not sad at all. That's a good perspective.
My favorite joke I tell my Browns family friends is, what do Browns fans do after they win the Super Bowl?
What?
They turn off their Xbox.
Jeez, Louise. So that's cold-blooded. That's cold-blooded.
I had to get that out there.
No, that's great.
Yeah, that's why. Congratulations.
That's the edge. Yeah, and I like Robert Saleh, but and I love Mike Tomlin, but I think the Jets might have an edge, and it wouldn't be revenge, but I think that it's a gel game. It's a time to show that some players and individual players can make a difference. And
I don't know that the Jets should have fired Robert Saleh. I liked him too.
I don't know.
I was
shocked by that.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the move. And it is kind of fitting, even though it's, according to Aaron Rodgers, Mike Williams' fault. Aaron Rodgers throws a game-ending pick, and it's like, that's like, if you stop throwing these picks, I don't think Saleh gets fired, and it's not.
That pick was also insane. He's somersaulting through the air, and Mike Williams is like, please give me that ball back. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm going to take the Jets here too. I might be wrong. I don't like Russell Wilson anymore. I would love to shake his hand. I like him I think he does a lot of good stuff. I like Russell Wilson as a player. I still think you could argue he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like, what he did in the league when he did it was incredible. But when he went to Denver, and even last year, people were like, by some numbers, he was really good. And it's like, did you watch the Broncos games? Like he might have not had interceptions, but he had horrible fumbles. Like I think they should stick with Justin Fields, but Mike Tomlin is literally one of the best NFL coaches going. So he knows a lot more than I do. So I respect it. I'm curious to see Russell Wilson. I'm excited to see Russell Wilson. George Pickens is immensely talented. TJ Watt is probably the best defensive player in the league. But I'm actually taking the Jets. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised.
And your comment about the Browns, it made me think of, the good thing about the Cowboys being on a bye this week is at least the Yankees are still playing. So
there you go.
it's still good.
There's every other Cowboys fan out there.
I mean,
like, hey,
Aaron Rodgers has as many in-season coach firings as he does playoff wins since 2018.
That's not true. Is that true?
Yeah,
it is totally true. Yeah.
Wow.
I saw. I read online. This made me laugh. It said Justin Fields was on record on pace to go 12-5, and Mike Tomlin's like, "No, we gotta go 9-8." So they
barely squeezed in. Yeah.
Wow, those are both really good bits.
Yeah, but you know what? Mike Tomlin, he's pretty good at one possession games, and he's feeling dangerous. He's feeling dangerous.
There it is. I like it. Yeah, give it to me. Go Steelers.
Steelers country. Let's ride.
Oh my
God. I like seeing.
I'm thinking Steelers because Mr. Unlimited is coming in. I love it. I love the cringe factor with him. I think he's going to come in and do good. And I think historically we've talked about teams and the new coach interim are good, but after that first game they kind of fall off. So
they probably should have beaten the Bills. Like they had a chance. Not to take away, but they had a lot of chances. The Hail Mary. I guess if you take away the Hail Mary, but that Hail Mary was incredible. Aaron Rodgers can still sling.
I
was talking smack on his picks, but he is Aaron Rodgers.
If they call it Hail Mary, I'm taking the Aaron Rodgers edge on that one.
Yes, 100%.
It seems to find Lazard especially too. So
incredible. I like the Steelers pick though, SamMeeBee. I kind of hope you're right. I hate to admit it, but there's something about watching the Jets fail that is really funny. That makes me a crappy person, but it is laughable.
Yeah, and this is, I think, our longest video, which I'm fine with because I like looking at the numbers and the stats. They have Russell Wilson over under 173.5. So they don't have passing a lot. And Aaron Rodgers had 221 last week. He was 213.5, and I think 294. So he was way over.
Yeah,
I think
he hasn't thrown a 300-yard game or something like that. And
but he's been going over his passing yards. So they don't have the combined yet for this one. But I might be interested in that. Take a look at that.
He was people are like, he hasn't thrown a 300-yard game. It's like, yeah, he was that efficient. He didn't need to, he's throwing 5 touchdowns.
Right.
Like he was incredible. Aaron Jones was really good. Him and Aaron Jones had a thing.
Yeah, I think he's. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Is Davante Adams is he that good? As a Raiders fan, was he that good?
I'm gonna blow your top off as a Fresno State Bulldogs. Yeah. Davante Adams is that guy, right?
Yeah.
Since he was wearing 15, that guy's been really talented. And the other thing is he already had a lot of skill sets that didn't rely on his physical skill sets. In his understanding of the game, route running, and kind of connection with the quarterback, where to put the ball and when is crucial on some of those timing routes. And we can say Mike Evans slipping, like Mike Williams falling and slipping down, okay. But someone like Aaron Rodgers is like, no, that's an exceptional loss. Like you come back to that ball, it's a different play. You've got the ball. You just need to turn around and make a play. And as much as I like Mike Williams, he's a talented player. Someone like Davante Adams kind of elevates that squad. It's as much of a diva as people can see him as now. I'm also a Raiders fan too, so I watch divas come and go. But Davante Adams is the kind of guy. I wouldn't say lunch pail, but he's got a real skill set that transfers to most playbooks. It's a playbook he's used to, a quarterback he's used to, and miraculous healing aside, I think he's been ready to play for some time too. Yeah.
I mean, Dan, he got Derek Carr a job. Of course he's good.
I think I might be a hater because I've had him in fantasy a few times, and it's for whatever reason it's never panned out. And I think he was a 2nd-round pick, and his rookie year he had a drop issue, but he was. I remember that playoff game against the Rams. Jalen Ramsey really could not guard him respectfully. Like Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams were just kind of doing whatever they wanted. That was Jared Goff's, I think, last game as a Ram.
That's the key part for some of those corners that are more physical. Like a guy that's more physical, you can play more physical alongside them, right? Get in their hip pocket and put some plays on it.
Yeah.
If that guy's a route runner, suddenly you might over pursue, or maybe you don't flip your hips at just the right moment, and that ball's gone. Like,
they were
he's
doing
looking
motion
easy.
stuff, and Ramsey just couldn't.
Right.
He was like yelling at Brandon Staley, and Staley's like trying to. I just remember that because I'm like, I believe in Brandon Staley. They're gonna figure it out, but Aaron Rodgers is like, you're not gonna figure it out. We're gonna beat you.
So I know it's too early
Full
to tell who won or lost that trade, but you know who did lose in that trade? Taco Bell. They built in a Taco Bell in his house, and now what are they gonna do?
They have to move.
I mean that
I love those commercials.
I mean, John Gruden sold his house. Derek Carr's trying to sell his house. Adams was trying to sell. Everybody's in real estate in Las Vegas. You want to lose.
They could all lived on the same street. That's so funny. They could all live there together. That's so crazy. Funny.
I got to go back to that receivers game so I could check out that backyard.
Well, you talking up on Devontae Adams makes me feel good about the Jets pick, but we'll see. TJ Watt can crush Aaron Rodgers, to say the least.
I mean, I'm a little excited. I think it'll be a fun Sunday night game,
Yeah,
but we'll see, because we got 2 Monday night games.
There's a lot of intrigue. They're doing it again.
Yeah, 2 Monday night games. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on. They got Baltimore going to Tampa. Baltimore's favored by 3.5. Danny Stone scratching the head. It's a head scratcher.
Yeah, I've got Mike Evans in a league, and I don't know. I'm actually thinking I'm going to start Worthy over him, which I kind of hate because I love Mike Evans. I just don't know if he's playing. He did the Rich Eisen show, and he said he's playing, so I'll probably end up sticking with Mike Evans. I'll put Bucky Irving in, I guess, if I need to. Flex position, baby. But, all my fantasy shenanigans aside, I'm going to go Ravens. Lamar's 23-2 against NFC teams or some SamMeeBee. I think you got the stat, but it's something absurd. I think the Ravens are a top team in the NFL. If the Bucs can get a lead, I really like Lamar Jackson. I do think Baker's a really good passer, but long story short, Bucs can definitely win, but I got to go Ravens here.
Yeah, I'll hop in real quick. Yeah, he's, as a starter, 22-1.
22-1.
Last week I took Washington and I lost, and I was like, I can't believe I forgot about that. Like, because last year, I remember when they played in San Francisco, it was a toss-up. Like, who do I take? And at the time, he was like 19-1, 20-1, whatever. So I was like, I gotta take him. He's in San Francisco. Then they had a good game. So I don't know what it is. It's just 20. Like, if he's playing NFC team, you gotta lock it in. I
think they're just not used to playing him, I guess, which maybe sounds ridiculous, but he's special. With the new
18th week, or I guess the 17th game, they play a little more often. Because Tampa, they play every 4 years, but now it's probably every couple of years. So I think they're playing the NFC East because they played the Cowboys and they played Commanders last week. So this is their bonus game, this one. So it's throwing it off. But yeah, so I'm taking Baltimore. And like I said, if it's NFC, I have to. So what about you, Andrew? Who are you taking this one?
Like I said, I got to make the Raiders look good. I got to go Ravens in this one. I like the Bucs. I love Mike Evans, right? The guy consistently puts up 1,000-yard receiving season every year.
Yes.
Over a decade. Like, that's
a first ballot Hall of Famer.
At his size, and like you would expect at least a couple injuries here and there, but he's got it. But the Ravens are a good team. I like the way that they play their football. I like grinding out the clock. I think that's good old school football. And I wouldn't say it's matchup proof, but it's pretty dang close, right? You can have inclement weather, you could have a good defense, but if you can move the ball on the ground, you're burning up clock and you're taking control of the game. And I think that number 8 gives him an edge every time he's in the pocket, out of the pocket, anywhere on the field. The guy's got some real talent.
They might have the best 2 running players in the NFL, to your point. It's kind of unbelievable.
And the over-under is 49.5. I don't know. I can see some fireworks. You can see the over. I'm actually thinking Baltimore covers 3.5. What do you buy?
I do too. I think Baltimore shuts them down. I think Baltimore gets a big win here.
I mean, Derrick Henry to score touchdowns -200. So heavily juiced. That would mean you have to bet $100, you win $50, plus your 100 back. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, that acquisition of Henry, that really impressed me. I was like, wow, they seem to get exactly what they kind of need.
Yeah. Harbaugh's he's a great coach.
You know what? I'm curious. My first thought jumps to pass attempts because I imagine Tampa be playing from behind and trying to keep it up. Baker's pass attempts is 35.5. So I wonder how he's been doing because
I could see that. I don't think they win the game that way. I don't know what the Tampa Bay running back situation is.
I think that's
White and Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker.
Sean Tucker, yeah. Right, and they said they wanted like a committee backfield, so
they're going to ride the hot hand.
I was going to say Right. They said they were each going to get a series, and then whoever. I was like, okay, all
Okay.
right, yeah.
Who believes in continuity?
I poo-pooed the Giants be like, oh, we're going to play both of them, and then I was like, oh, that's bad for both. You're going to.
Right. I think Tyrone's he's one. I could be wrong. What I've seen of Tyrone Tracy, I think you want to. He looks great as a receiver, former receiver. I'm getting a little off topic, but yeah, it's just. I don't know. Give a guy touches, but what do I know? I'm not an NFL coach. I don't know.
Tyrone Tracy passed the eye test for me. He was making good choices, make good cuts, and
I like Singletary too.
Me too.
But I just think, to your point earlier, give one of those guys 15 plus touches. Don't
or design a couple plays. Right,
Yeah.
get those manufactured touches.
So you see him not throwing the ball a lot. Mayfield.
Yes. Well, I think if he does, they lose.
Yeah.
I could see him. I could see Mike Evans getting like a meaningless fourth quarter touchdown that puts them within 9 points or something like that. And it's no disrespect. I like Tampa Bay. I think they're a top team in the NFC. I just think the Ravens are a top team in the NFL.
Yeah, that's the right way to put it, I'd say.
Yeah, because in his last 5 games, he's gone over in 3. He's gone under pass attempts in 3 of them. Actually, I mean, I looked up all 6 games this year. He's gone under 35 pass attempts in 4 of the 6 games. And in one of those games, he's at 36, so just over it. So my initial thought, that's why it's always you got to do your research. My initial thought was taking over, but after doing the research, I'm thinking under.
There it is.
In this case, I'm not even touching it because it's too close to tell. You can go either way.
And that should be a lesson to you kids out there.
Don't because
make a bet you don't have
to. You have your gut instinct. That's like earlier when I saw the Jalen Hurts rush times. My gut said take the under. So after the game, this video, I'm going to do research to see if I still agree with that. So.
Your gut sticks with the science. Yeah.
Yeah. If you lose your grocery money, then you're just intermittent fasting.
I like it.
What's the final game of the slate?
The Cardinals.
God, the Arizona Cardinals hosting the Chargers. So I feel like a lot of people say they say I'm one of my bandwagon Cardinals fans because I pick them a lot. I don't know.
Your buddy Mac does.
Yeah. I mean,
this
might be a good one. So I did go to my first Cardinals game this season, and they're playing Washington, and there were so many fans from Washington that I'm like, I don't think the Cardinals have a good fan base. I don't know. And then I didn't believe in Herbert, but I think his coach is really helping him turning around. I'm actually going to take the Chargers here. I think what it is last week the Chargers jumped out ahead 23-0, and Arizona fell down 0-24. So I think the Chargers are going to jump ahead and just hold on to that lead. So I'm actually taking them. What about you, Andrew? Let's go next.
Ooh, I just got a sports alert on that. It looks like Marvin Harrison Jr. is cleared to play and he will be playing. So that is a big X factor. Without him, it would have been a little bit easier.
Yep.
But the Cardinals are a good team. They're a little unpredictable for my taste. And I thought they're fun to watch. And I like Kyler Murray when he brings the ball down. But sometimes he makes some decisions. I'm like, all right, maybe not so much. And the Chargers defense is playing pretty solid defense, even with the losses of, the Bosa's being out last week. He still played pretty well. And then I like the way that they're managing the game now. Herbert's passing has been down, but the team is kind of grinding out games in a way, and he's making those big throws instead of just making all the throws. And I think that's a big difference here. And if the Cardinals go down, it's probably not going to be good for them. But if it's a tight game, like it looks like the spread shows, I think the Chargers might have a bit of an edge with their running attack and the Harbaugh style kind of, hold them by the throat for the whole game and grind out the clock. It doesn't play well to the Cardinals' quick hits and stuff like that.
So you're taking Chargers?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chargers, yeah.
Okay. My take's probably not fun. It would be spicy to pick the Cardinals. And to your point, SamMeeBee, yes, our usual guest and buddy Mac does accuse us of being closet Cardinals fans. But we saw the Cardinals drop 42 on the Rams. So it's hard. Like, we've seen it in motion. Like, it's real. It's live. But I'm going to take the Chargers as well. I believe in Harbaugh. And I do like Justin Herbert. I think he's a really good quarterback. And I think that Harbaugh has taken a lot of pressure off him. And J.K. Dobbins looks great. I grabbed that Vidal in a few leagues fantasy-wise, so he might be a good backup. And then I think the receivers should get better. McConkey and Johnston, compared to his rookie season, Johnston's having a great resurgent year, we'll call it. So, yeah, I'm going to pick the Chargers here. But if Kyler Murray does his thing like he did against the Niners, he is, in terms of just talent, he is that guy when he's that guy. But I'm going to take the Chargers.
And it's funny you say Harbaugh taking off the pressure for him because I was looking at it. His over/under pass attempts is 199, and this season he's not passing a lot. Last game he did through 237, and then before that, in his previous 5 games, his highest was 179. So he's not even throwing the ball a lot. So
he can when he needs to. Yeah, I think he can.
Before Harbaugh shows up, he's slinging the ball all the time, right?
50 times a game.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And now it's down to
unreasonable.
just his attempps, not even completions, just attempts. They're down 27.5. So they have
that is low.
Way lower.
But the thing is,
change in the way
he's trying to stop them from charging themselves. I play Madden online, and I just think all the time because we run the ball. I mean, the stats are there. The most likely a turnover is to happen is when you throw the ball, I believe. So Harbaugh's like, we're not going to charge ourselves. We're gonna control the game, and it's working. You know what? It looked kind of goofy the way they did it because they let Eckler go. They don't keep Mike Williams. They don't keep Keenan Allen, but they kept Khalil Mack and they kept Bosa. And he brings in Dobbins, which I'll admit I'm kind of like, is he healthy? Apparently, yeah, he looks great. So it's working. Harbaugh, I think, looks like a genius to this point. And they could have beaten. I know coulda, woulda, shoulda, but they were in that Chiefs game, which to me says a lot because I think the Chiefs are still the best team in the NFL.
I think I told you the old ball coach quote. When you throw the ball, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. So
incompletion, interception. Yeah, that's
that
really
old style kind of thinking about. Forget the forward pass. We got to get back to rugby standards. Yeah, and it does work. It grinds out the clock. It takes the game away from the other team. So. And that's probably the best thing you can do with a talented offense on the other side in the Cardinals. Like if you keep the ball away from them and you hold on to that ball, it makes it a lot more pressure on each of those drives to do something, anything.
Yes. Yeah. Momentum's real. Analytics are in everything.
I can see both quarterbacks getting at least 200 yards. So I'm definitely thinking about putting money on this over 417 combined. I can see both of them getting probably 250. I jokingly
Marvin Harrison coming back is that's a good argument for you, I think, to go on the over.
I said last week, jokingly that they say the Cardinals defense is like Swiss cheese, so it's like I can see them doing good.
Apparently not against the Rams. They crushed the Rams.
They did.
Although it's funny, it's one of those the Rams moved the ball, quote unquote, only scored 9 points, but they moved the ball. Good grief, that was a hard watch.
That was the last one. So of the 15 matchups, we agreed, all 3 of us on 7 of them. So it should be fun. Last week, I think before last week, we were like under 500, most of our picks. We were doing bad, but Dan went 12-2. Definitely check out that short. You can see it. The 11 Sunday/Monday game, so pretty good. So that was fun. I know it's our longest video, probably double our normal time, but it's because I wanted to look at the betting stuff, and we dove deep into the Rams Raiders. So if you joined us late, we had a pretty lengthy talk about the Rams Raiders. So I guess we'll go in reverse order for any closing remarks. Andrew, and a Raiders fan, thanks for joining us. Remarks from you.
I hope I don't become a Rams fan after the game. No, I think it's a good game. I think it'd be really fun. I think both teams, the records don't show the talent they got on the teams, and I'm excited to watch what goes on out there. Been a big fan of the Rams. Watch them. The coaching, good coaching tree, and as long as he doesn't get any emails sent out or nothing like that, it's a good team. But I like the Rams. I think they're a good team. I was surprised with the record. I think Kyren Williams is – everybody's kind of on point on that one. Injuries to the interior defensive line. Kyren Williams can feast. If they choose to use that game strategy, it probably will grind out low scoring and they win the game. If they start slinging the ball and the Raiders do too, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. I'm pulling for the Raiders. I don't know about my Texans-Packers pick. I don't know. I might regret that one. The Texans are still in my head there. I really like that team, but it was really fun joining you guys. I have fun. I'm sorry if I extended it too much, blowing up your guys' spot here. A lot of your listeners are like, hey, don't forget this. This Raiders guy comes on. Hour and a half diatribe about Marcus Epps being out and Traylon Merrick and then figure it out. But I think it's fun and exciting.
I know Mac's been on our last couple episodes. He's been a returning guest. So he once had 4 of us. So I can only imagine how much longer I've been with 4 of us. So I do want to try to get a 4-person video at some point. This was good. And I want to second what you say. The record doesn't reflect how good these teams are. I think that's why I said it's huge having 2 games in 4 days. I think it's gonna take a lot for the Rams to beat the Vikings, but if they can win the next 2 games, they're still under 500 at 3-4, but they have additional rest going into that next one. And
Right.
I think
which would be
year,
a Seattle game, which
Yeah.
would be they're in a position to set themselves. I agree. That's a good take.
And y'all needed that healing quarter too.
I
a
think
lot of
so.
injuries right. So
because last year
they need to beat the Raiders though to have that happen, Sammy B. But you
don't pick that one up. That Vikings game is going to hit you like a freight train.
I still think the Vikings game is huge, but you're bringing up a good point. 2 wins in 4 days would be
because
last year, the narrative.
Their playoff odds were pretty low going into their bye week, and it was after the bye week is when they went 5-6 or whatever it was, and the only loss was to Baltimore in overtime.
Yeah,
so
that game was crazy.
Yeah, they definitely needed this. So that was my closing remarks. Danny Sohn, I'll let you close it off.
I thank you guys for doing this. I'm going to actually finish up my article after this, and I'll post the video at the bottom. Maybe I'll do a little blurb about how this one's a little bit different. But I thought this was a lot of fun. I love talking Rams Raiders, and I think it was good to have a Raiders fan on, and good really perspective from both you guys. And thank you for letting me share mine. And I just love doing this, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, like you said, we talk this all the time, and I was able to bring in some of the betting numbers. Bet responsibly if you do it. But thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a good one.
All right,